traffic jam. Lots of pigeons and stuff.
If I could have your attention, please. I'd like to welcome you to our September 14th council meeting. In the interest of time efficiency and ensuring that everyone who wishes to address the council is given the opportunity to do so, the following will apply to all comments made by the public. If you desire to be recognized by the chair, please fill out a request form and present it to the city clerk present here in council chambers. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to address the council unless such time is extended by the mayor or by questions from council. Groups shall designate a spokesperson to avoid repetition of comments. Every effort will be made to avoid interrupting speakers, and we thank you for participating in your city government. We also ask that you please silence all electronic devices. At this time, could we all stand for our invocation? I'd like to welcome Pastor Jay McCagg from Crossroads Baptist Church. Please remain standing afterwards for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Father God, we count it a privilege that we live in a community in a nation where we can gather together to have our voices heard. And Father, we thank you for those that have come out tonight to do just that. We pray, Father, for peace, for wisdom upon each person that speaks and those that hear. We pray, Father, that good and godly decisions will be made here tonight. We thank you, Father, for those that have dedicated themselves to serve this community, whether on the front lines or here in this building, Father. We just pray, Father, that you'd bless each and every one of them. Father, give us peace tonight. Give us wisdom. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Blackwell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Irvin.
Here.
Councilmember Matheny.
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Here.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Here.
I'd like to ask our city manager if we have any agenda updates that you'd like to bring to our attention at this time.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to pull item D, like dog, off of the agenda. And additionally, City Council has asked a lot of questions about the downtown renovation project. So I'd like to ask for staff to do a brief presentation, and we've asked Cathcart to come this evening to answer your questions. If the council would agree, I'd like to put it after the consent agenda.
If there are no objections, we will have that presentation after the consent agenda. Do you have anything else?
No, thank you, that's all.
Thank you. We have a proclamation in recognition of Constitution Week that we will be presenting to Kim Tennyson. And anyone you have with you that would like to come. Good to see you. I'll read it, then I'll let you share any comments. Whereas September 17th, 2022, marks the 235th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designated September 17 through 22 as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, Nathan Blackwell, Mayor of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, do hereby proclaim September 17 through 23 to be Constitution Week in the City of St. Cloud, and we asked our citizens to reaffirm the ideals that the framers of the Constitution had in 1787. And with that, we'll present you with the proclamation. Would you like to say a word?
We thank you, Mayor Blackwell, and the community of St. Cloud for recognizing Constitution Week and We just want everyone to hold those ideals as important and value our Constitution. It's a document to be celebrated and read and appreciated. Thank you.
Could we get a picture here together? You hold this one and I'll hold that one. Okay? Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's swing around here and she can get a better view of it. Squeeze in tight.
You're pointing at me.
Is this yours? This brings us to our citizens forum. Any person who desires to comment on any item not in this agenda is provided this opportunity to address the city council. Each person is requested to complete a signing form to be provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as is practical after the person addresses the council. When you come forward, you'll please state your name and address for the record, and we ask that you'll limit your comments to 3 minutes. First of all, we have Dasha Rainey. Did I say that correctly? Deja. All right.
Hi,
Hello.
my name's Deja. I'm at 236 Montana Ave. I wasn't planning on being here today. My son is a 5th grade student at Lakeview Elementary, and this afternoon he was hit by a car while riding his bike home. We live 0.3 miles from the school. It's a 2-minute bike ride, and in that 2 minutes, while crossing the intersection of Montana Ave and 5th Avenue, he was struck. Thank God he's okay. Thank God. But so I guess I'm here, obviously not planning to be and still very shooken up from the experience, to advocate for some kind of flashing lights, crossing guards, something. That neighborhood, we have lots of children in that neighborhood. The school's right there. Most of these kids are walking home. We're not able to get bus transportation because we're so close to the school. That is a very busy intersection, and almost every student walking home from school or riding a bike or a scooter has to cross that intersection. I live on that street, so I am well aware of people flying by. I was told that it was my son's fault, although he was at a crosswalk, by an officer. I don't know if anyone can clarify that for me. I thought pedestrians had the right of way at crosswalks, but regardless, like, I was told by other parents, resource officers, that they've been trying to get some kind of flashing lights or some extra precautions in that area, and it's apparently not happening. So, you know, I drove here today. I didn't even know there was a meeting today until less than an hour ago, and I came right here. I dealt with all the construction going on downtown, and the bricks look really pretty and stuff, but I don't think there's anything on this agenda today that could be more important than the safety of our children. And when I tell you that, again, thank goodness my son is perfectly fine. It could have been worse, but pulling into my street, seeing a child and a bike laying on the road and flashing lights surrounding him, that instant thought, please don't let it be my son, the realization that it was my son, and those 60 seconds between me stopping my car and running over and making sure he's okay and understanding what's going on was the scariest experience as a parent I've ever dealt with. And I just think, I don't know how much a light costs, I don't know how much a cross guard makes, but I think it's a pretty smart investment. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, we certainly are glad that your son was not seriously injured. And Ms. Miller, would you like, your light is on?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm very sorry to hear that about your son. I did want to update you that the city council did give direction to staff to look at the entire Fifth Street corridor. And we actually have a study going on right now that I think is going to be wrapping up very soon. And at the end of that, we'll be looking at signage and lighting and all of that as part of that study.
Okay, is there anything, any meetings, anything, so I can kind of keep following up on this?
Did you fill out a sheet? Because I will make sure we contact you when we bring it back.
I filled out.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have your contact information, and we'll let you know when it's back on the agenda.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
I think we're going to do a workshop first, maybe.
All right.
Yes.
Adam Wagner.
Good evening, you're all. Adam Wagner. I own 10th Street Produce and Deli right here in downtown St. Cloud, 920 New York Avenue. I'm here to speak on behalf of all the downtown businesses tonight. This morning we woke up to New York 10th Street being closed off for 4 blocks. And I get it. The bricks have to be fixed. We all understand that. I just think we need to really decide when we're fixing these bricks and not shutting us down again. It's devastating. It's killing us. It's hurting us. And to people that see it online, they automatically think that it's going to be congested down here. They're just not going to come. And we can't do that again. We cannot do that again. So thankfully, I just spoke with a lot of y'all today, and we got some type of resolution this afternoon, and we were able to open the roads back up, and they only worked on what block they were working on. But I really think this needs to start being thought of doing it overnight. There's less traffic. It's not as hot. I mean, if there's some things that have to be done during the day, I completely understand it, but the majority of it should be done overnight. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions or anything I can do to help down here, as you know, I've been very successful downtown, and I want to keep it that way.
All right. Well, thank you, Adam, and I'm sure the city manager is very much aware of that, and we'll take that into consideration. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak during the citizens forum? Thank you. We'll move on to our next item, which is the consent agenda. The next portion of tonight's meeting is the consent agenda, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, now is the opportunity for you to do so. Additionally, if staff or members of the city council wish to speak on a consent item, they have the same opportunity. First of all, I'll ask the council members, are there any items that you are wanting to address on the consent agenda? Councilmember Matheny.
I'd like to pull item Z, as in zebra, for discussion.
I was just notified they would like to continue that item.
Never mind.
So that'll be withdrawn from the consent agenda and put back
So
on the,
item Z is going to be pulled.
yes.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to any item on the consent agenda? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny for the approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Councilmember Irvin. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny. Aye. Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Wow, that was quick. That was a lot of stuff, guys.
It's that city,
I think my
the
heart
city
is
managers,
my heart
right?
is palpitating. At this time, we will ask the staff if they have an update on the bricks and the work that Cathcart is doing.
Good evening, Kevin Feldwinger, Public Works Director. As everybody's aware, we are trying to continue to work on this project. There is a punch list that is remaining left on there. There's a little bit of storm work that needs to be repaired, and of course, the last big item we have on there is the bricks. And so like I said, so I'm going to turn it over to Matt Blant. If you have any questions, he's the president for Cathcart Construction, and be able to answer any of your questions that you might have for Cathcart.
Thank you, sir. If you'll state your name and address.
Matt Blinn, 3602 Upper Union Road, Orlando, Florida.
Thank you.
Do you guys have questions for me?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something first.
No, I'm sorry.
Wait, I think we all have questions.
Well, sure.
Oh, go
You
ahead.
do you want to speak?
No.
Okay, Councilmember Fletcher.
So,
Thank
you
you.
know, this project is very frustrating for a lot of people in this community. This project, the initial contract was for 120 days. And here we are now, over a year later, and it's still not done. Our downtown business owners have done everything that they can to be able to sustain and not go out of business. We have given the downtown business owners hundreds of thousands, well, not hundreds of thousands, but we did a big round of what we call cloud cash. We've also, done some OUC stuff to help them pay for their electric bills. We've spent $100,000 we just approved on marketing to be able to assist our downtown business owners, and we're still dealing with the bricks. I would like to know when the bricks will be done, if you have a plan to complete the bricks, when it will be done, if you're capable of completing the job, and if you can't, should we hire somebody else?
No, we're absolutely capable of completing the project. We had a meeting this week with the engineer of record and city staff. We're going to have the brick manufacturer come in and give his recommendations on what's going on 10th Street, whether it's something from the alleyways with the large trucks pulling off and on, we're not sure. We're out there today. We're going to be out there until the rest of 10th Street is complete and redone. And then we're meeting with the brick manufacturer to figure out what's going on with 10th Street.
And then, another thing too is communication, right? So a lot of the business owners, the downtown, it's quaint. We like the majority of folks like the bricks. And, they want to see it get done as quickly as possible. One of the biggest frustrations that they've had is the communications between your subcontractors and your staff, not informing them of when the work is going to be done. We had to go outside and hire a company to do communication that your company should be doing. So I want you to tell me that you're going to communicate properly with these business owners as we go through this process to correct these brick issues.
Sure, we work with David Bridle.
Okay. I'm done.
Mr. Gilbert?
Sorry, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I drive through Winter Park because I have some properties in there. And I drive through Kissimmee because I have some properties in there. And I look at their brick system, and it's adequate, and you don't need alignment when you go through. You can just kind of drive. What were we missing? I know there's hurricanes. Everyone has it, but what were we missing on this construction? Where did we fall short? So I've walked down the streets, and you can put your foot in some of the holes there, and then we don't want that, and I know you don't want that. What did we miss? Where was our communication gap? That we wanted a product, we paid for that product, and now we're still suffering because of that product. What did we miss?
Are you talking about 10th Street in particular?
I'm talking about everywhere you turn. I mean, there's not one specific place. There's 7 or 8 places. There are other places. Where did we miss it not being what we were looking at, or the citizens that paid for it were looking at, to be a beautiful brick street? Where did we miss it?
I don't think anybody's missed anything. I mean, we were the contractor for phase 1.
Right.
We haven't done anything different than we did in phase 1.
Right.
Everything's been tested by a third-party testing company.
Okay.
Everything's done per plan and per specification.
And in phase 2 is the same way?
Correct.
It's tested,
Yes.
someone gives a thumbs up, we need to fire that company because it's just not what it should be to do that product. It's not. I mean, I get complaints all the time that driving, walking, it's not that way. If you've gone down Lakefront in Kissimmee, or you go down Winter Park, where their bricks are 100 years old, they're still in place and still going, but we have a lot of missing pieces and places and things like that. Have you walked the streets?
I have.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's why we have crews out there.
Your thoughts are that's why you have crews out there?
No, we're remediating the problem. I can't tell you why
Okay.
10th Street is the way it is. I
Okay.
cannot tell you why.
Okay, well, I'm just asking because you're the president, and
Correct.
I've been the president of many companies, and normally when they come to me, I have to answer. And your answer is, I don't know. Well, the only thing I'm gonna ask you is.
I have ideas that I'm working with an engineer.
I got tons of ideas.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm asking you is fix it.
Right.
These people been suffering for a long time and losing business. The only thing I'm asking you, sir, with all due respect, fix it.
We're
Is that
working on it.
okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Councilmember Urban.
Yeah, I do share the same frustrations as Councilmember Gilbert and Fletcher. These businesses, they have suffered through a lot in the last couple of years. The communication, Fletcher, Councilmember Fletcher hit on that. Yeah, I've received several phone calls from business owners this morning that they were shutting down the roads again right before a pretty big event downtown that was meant to showcase our downtown and our city, and yet we're still in a construction zone because they're fixing issues that shouldn't have happened. And yeah, I drove down, you said you went down Winter Park. I drove down the Kissimmee Lakefront, and it's as smooth as could be. Why is this one different? Why are we having these issues? This is not a product that I would be proud to show as a final product. Are we going to continue having these issues? They're fixing it now, but a few weeks, 6 months down the road, is this going to continue to happen?
That's not our plan. Like I said before, we're working with the engineer and the brick manufacturer to get answers, and we'll have it taken care of.
Thanks.
Well, you certainly heard the displeasure of our council, and we appreciate you being here. We know that's tough. You know, I know that this is a professional company. We just want you to do a professional job, and when the product hasn't been met up to par, take care of it. We'd just like for you to take care of it in a timely manner.
No, absolutely.
And keep us communicating.
We partner with the city on many projects, and we
I know
plan on
that.
keeping the relationship solid.
Thank you. Look forward to being fixed quick and right. The next item on our agenda is public hearings. Brings us to item number 1. Madam Clerk, would you please read that into the record?
Public hearing for resolution number 2023-153R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, establishing a final ad valorem tax millage for the City of St. Cloud for the fiscal year 2023-2024, the same being adopted prior to the adoption of the final budget for said period.
Good evening, Jeff Cooper, Finance Director. It appears that I'm missing some of the pages of my slide here. Let's see. Final budget. We're missing the first few pages.
Can you,
I can wing it.
thank you.
Can you,
Per Florida statute, we have to have this hearing to establish our final ad valorem on tax millage rate, as we do every year. This is the first hearing. At the second hearing, it'll have to be voted on prior to the next one, which is actually the budget. So these are the highlights of the services that the city property taxes that generated from our ad valorem revenue cover. As you can see, public safety, roads and streets, community-related things such as parks and recreation, cemetery, and community development, of course. So we're requesting a millage rate of 5.1128 for the upcoming fiscal year, FY 23-24. This is the 11th straight year that we have not raised the millage rate. However, due to property valuation increases. It is an 11.14% increase from the previous year when you're not over the rolled back rate, which is 4.6005, which was on one of my other slides. I have a pretty good memory, I guess. Of that increase, it's 11.4% increase in personnel cost, 1% cost of living increase for staff, a 3% pay adjustment for staff that have been here, not new hires, plus a longevity pay adjustment based upon the number of years that staff have been here. It also includes the previously approved police department union contracts. So that's an increase of $1,017,471. 3 new general funded positions. Those are 2 police officers and 1 victims advocate for $266,000 total. Increase in health insurance cost, $603,000. The city is absorbing the whole increase, so there's no increase passed on to staff this fiscal year. Part of the reason for that is health insurance costs are going up as a whole, but we also lost a number of employees that, of course, went to Toho, so you have less employees sharing the costs. So it's natural. The smaller your population, the higher your costs go. Increase in pension contribution costs of $1,176,899. That does cover the general pension employees as well as the police and fire pension. Those costs continue to rise and will likely continue to do so in the foreseeable future. So for the ad valorem tax millage, staff recommendation is approval of Resolution 2023-153R, and the requested action is approval of Resolution 2023-153R.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Are you wanting to say something?
I was just going to remind the mayor that this is the first of 2 public hearings. Final action of this will be at the next council meeting.
Final public hearing will be held on September the 28th, 2023. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 2 into the record?
Public hearing for resolution number 2023-154R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, establishing a final budget for the City of St. Cloud for the fiscal year 2023-2024, the same being adopted following the adoption of the final millage rate for said period.
Jeff Cooper, Finance Director. As you see, as per Florida Statute 166.241, the city is required to adopt a budget each fiscal year by ordinance or resolution. This is the first reading. As you mentioned, the second reading will be at our next meeting Thursday, September 28th. As required, that will be advertised on Sunday, September 24th in the Orlando Sentinel. So the amount available from taxation and other sources, including balances brought forward from prior fiscal years, must equal the total appropriations for expenditures and reserves. In other words, the adopted budget must balance. So our total budget for FY 23-24, including all funds, is $191.9 million. I won't go over each one, but I will point out some significant ones. The general fund is 36.2% of our total, $69.5 million. The enterprise funds are 45.9%, or $45.9 million, or 23.9%. Keep in mind that $22 million of that is water and sewer impact fees that we're still in the process of transferring to Toho as our investments mature. So next year, our total budget will go down again. So just keep in mind in case you wonder why that happens. The capital projects fund, so we have capital projects, which will be at the end here, is $17.6 million. These are expenditures. Again, they balance by fund. Nothing particularly significant other than what I just mentioned. You might note debt service is only $2.6 million. So that is very good. Our debt load is very low at this time. So that's noteworthy. This is revenues by type. So as you could see, we're using $35.1 million, or 18% of our budget is reserves, or what you would otherwise refer to as prior year fund balance. General government services, $37.6 million, and so on. Any particular questions on those? This is specific for the general fund. As you can see, the ad valorem revenues are approximately 1/3 of our total revenue and continues to rise, $22.2 million. That is a total increase of approximately $4 million. And then we have our other funding sources that make up the smaller percents. Expenditures by function, again, $69.5 million for the general fund. As you can see, public safety is our biggest expenditure of 54%. That's pretty normal across the municipality industry. And 19% is general government. The rest of us, city manager, finance, procurement, human resources, public works, and so forth. And then the smaller percentages of the other departments, Parks and Rec being 14%. Okay, as I mentioned, the projects that are funded out of this fiscal year's budget, we have IT 2200, that is network security software with a focus on cybersecurity, $125,000 additional out of the Fund 120. PR 1906, trail extension lakefront to Chisholm, $1.3 million. That is coming from Parks Impact. PR 2301, Chisholm Park Master Plan, $3.5 million. That is also Parks Impact fee. PR 2302, Hopkins Park Master Plan, $350,000, Parks Impact fee. Fire Station 32 rebuild, the PS 2104. Now that is additional funding for that, so that's not the total cost. We had some already funded, so out of the 1%, I believe the total is somewhere in the neighborhood of $10.5 million. The one we're probably most proud of getting started is Project PS 2401, our new PD Communications Center. We have $1 million budgeted for the initial architectural and engineering work, and that is out of our police impact fees. ST 2401, our annual master paving throughout the city, $1.2 million. That is paid for with the gas tax. ST 2402, ADA improvements, $500,000, and that is out of mobility impact fees. ST 2303, 10th Street Complete Streets, $765,000, mobility impact fees. ST 2304, Michigan Avenue Pedestrian Project, $150,000, mobility impact. ST 2305, Massachusetts Avenue Extension, $520,000, mobility impact. ST 2306, Creekwood Drive Extension, $1 million, again, mobility impact fees. A lot of these are, when you see the 23 numbers, they are actually projects that were established in this fiscal year. The A&E work was begun, so this is actually year 2 funding of all these projects. ST 2307, 17th Street Extension, $1,015,000. Mobility impact fees, ST 2308, 5th Street upgrades, $360,000. Mobility impact fees for a total capital projects budget of $17,654,286. So as you can see, lots of positive work going on in the city. We've made great progress on the projects that we currently have underway. So doing well in that regard. And we've reached the end. Our recommendation is approval, and we're requesting your approval. And just as with the millage rate, this is first reading, so we actually don't need a vote. So we'll see you September 28th.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this recommendation and report? Councilmember Urban?
I just wanted to recognize Mr. Cooper and his staff and all of the city staff who worked hard on this budget. I know it was a massive undertaking, and it's a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
And we do thank you, and we will be presenting that on September the 28th in that council meeting for approval. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, that brings us to items 3, 4, and 5. Could you please read all three of those into the record?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-42, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, to annex into the City of St. Cloud approximately 25.59 acres identified as Walker property located south of Chisholm Park Trail, west of South Narcousie Road, north of Old Oak Trail, in accordance with the voluntary annexation provision of Chapter 171.044 Florida statutes. Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-43, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation, LDR, low-density residential, to approximately 25.59 acres identified as Walker property located south of Chisholm Park Trail, west of South Narcousie Road, north of Old Oak Trail, providing for amending the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission, recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effects, suburbilities, copies on files, and effective date. Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-44, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a zoning district of PUD plan unit development compatible with low-density residential future land use designation change adopted by ordinance number 2022-43 for approximately 25.59 acres identified as Walker property located south of Chisholm Park Trail, west of South Narcousie Road, north of Old Oak Trail, providing for entering the designation on the official zoning map, providing for approval of the preliminary master plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Thank you. Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. The cases before you tonight are for the annexation comp plan amendment, planned unit development for the zoning application, and the preliminary master plan for the project known as the Walker property. The properties are contiguous to existing city limits and abuts the city limits on the western property boundary of the project. The property has an existing county future land use designation of low-density residential and an existing zoning designation of R1 and RS1C, which is rural settlement and urban settlement in the county. The proposed future land use and what they're requesting tonight is to have a low-density residential land use and an R1B. Sorry, that's incorrect. That should be PUD. So initially, the applicant requested an R1B zoning, but we have worked with the applicant to create a planned unit development, and you'll see that on the next slide. This request is compatible with the surrounding areas and will have no adverse impacts on city facilities. The total net developable area is 25.59 acres, and the proposed city future land use is low-density residential. If you look at the existing county future land use, they are allowed up to 8 dwelling units, which could allow for 204 dwelling units. That would equate to a 7.97 dwelling units per acre. So that would be the density if they were allowed to develop in the county. If they are annexed into the city, then they would be capped at a maximum of 4 dwelling units per acre, which could be up to 102 dwelling units if they were to develop at the full gross residential density, which is not what they're proposing. but we just wanted to give you those numbers for reference. So here's the location map showing the project. You'll see the gray area are the city limit boundaries, so you'll see that the proposed property is contiguous to city limits on their western property boundary. Here are graphic representations of the future land use map and the zoning map that depicts the low-density residential land use and the R1 and RS1C zoning districts. For context, the proposed PUD will consist of a total of 73 units. So even though the maximum density was a little higher, the applicant through this planned unit development is only proposing 73 dwelling units. They're going to be single-family, detached, front-loaded product type. The lot sizes are proposed to range from 62.5 to 75 feet wide, and the gross residential density will be 2.85. The requested development will be a single-phase development, meaning that they'll build the whole project out in one phase. They will provide an extension of the multi-use trail from their project to Narcoossee Road. They will provide both active recreation, a tot lot, and a dog park. They are proposing enhanced landscape buffering along Chisholm Park Trail and Albany Avenue and future access connections, so they'll stub out a few. Here's a graphic representation of the preliminary master plan depicting the lot layouts, the locations of the amenities, the access, and storm water management areas. This request meets the strategic plan goals for growth management. Staff at their DRC meeting recommended approval of ordinance number 2022-42 and 43, and we recommend approval with conditions for ordinance number 2022-44 for the planned unit development. The following conditions must be satisfied prior to final approval of the subdivision construction plans. We are asking that they provide written approval of denial from Osceola County Transportation and Transit on the entrance to, and I'm sorry, this is not the correct slide. I'm so sorry, that is not correct. Give me 1 second, I'll pull them from the staff report. Okay, sorry about that. I think one of the slides carried over from from Planning Commission and it wasn't updated. So we're requesting that they provide a written approval or denial from Osceola County Transportation and Transit on the entrance and access to and from Narcoossee Road, that they provide pedestrian access to the multi-use trail between lots 18 and 20, and that they reduce the length of the cul-de-sac to provide enhanced landscaping buffering on the south property line and dedication as future access point, that they provide illuminated signage depicting dead end for all future access points that abut residential, and they provide a detail split rail fencing that will be included in buffering along Chisholm Park Trail and Albany Avenue. Those conditions were in your staff report. I'm sorry about that. A couple of them are missing. So on July 19th, 2022, Planning Commission did recommend approval of the annexation and the comprehensive plan amendment. There was a tie vote on the zoning. We are requesting that council approve ordinance 2022-42 and 2022-43 and approval with conditions of ordinance 2022-44 as stated. That completes our presentation. Staff and the applicants are available for questions. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening, Joe Thacker, 17 South Orlando Avenue, Kissimmee. I appreciate the presentation that staff gave, and we are in full agreement with what they have presented, with a couple of caveats. First, I would like to say thank you for putting all three of these ordinances for discussion. And what I would like to ask is that I think most folks are in agreement with the annexation and the future land use, and that the zoning part is the part where there's going to be discussion from the neighbors. And so what I'd like to ask is that we have that robust discussion, and that we have some agreement before a vote's taken on the annexation and the future land use, in case we need to continue all three. And then going into it, we did have another community meeting. We sent out 199 notices. We did have about 20 people from the public come. It was a productive conversation. We have continued to have conversations with other community folks out there, as well as listening to what staff has presented. What I'd like to do tonight is go back to the site plan. And I describe it as the P area. If you look at the top, north of Street A, it kind of looks like a P. What we would offer tonight, instead of this plan, is that the lots within that P area be raised to 75 feet front, minimum of 75 feet, and that the remainder be the 62.5 feet that are indicated on the south side of Street A out to Narcoossee. We also understand that there may be a request from a couple of the owners on the south side of Street A as it goes out to Narcoossee for a fence buffer instead of the landscape buffer, that there would still be. So what we would ask is what they present we would agree to, but we'd like to hear what they say. So what I'd like to do is to reserve some time to address the other neighbor comments that will come up, as well as any comments that the council members have, reserving that time and being able to have answers presented as well if the planners are also available, as well as the owner. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. This time we'll have public comment. Russell Ball. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments for 3 minutes.
My name is Russell Ball. I live at 4861 Old Oak Trail. I wanted to speak tonight to bring to the council's attention an agreement between myself and neighbors on Old Oak Trail with the developer for the Walker property. We have requested that a privacy fence be provided on the southern property line to ensure that the current level of privacy that we currently have is preserved. The developer has agreed to provide a fence on the southern property line with the following features and adjustments. It'll be a 6-foot tall white vinyl privacy fence. 25-foot buffer will be in place. Canopy trees will be planted, and they requested not to plant the ground shrubs, which I'm in agreement with. With the agreement for a fence, I, as well as my neighbor Cameron Hindle, are in support of the current proposed plans for the Walker property. We would request that the city allows an exception to be made in the Narcoossee Commons plan to allow the fence to be built. The alternative that is on the table, if this goes to the county, is not what the residents in this area want. If this goes to the county, it is zoned for townhome style units, and there could be almost 200 units on this property. When presented with both plans as a homeowner, I would much rather have 70 houses built behind me than 200 townhomes. And that's all I had. I just want to say thank you to the council members, especially Mr. Urban. You took time out of your day to come to my house and hear me out and actually see my concerns. And then I've had no issues with the builder. They've been nothing but cooperative and respectful, and they've listened to every complaint and concern that I've had. So again, I just want to restate, I am in favor of the current proposed plan, as well as my neighbor. He is also in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Betty Damke.
Good evening, everyone. I wish we could have discussed the annexation and the rezoning and then go into this portion of it because it just seems to be more apropos. The entire community is all for the annexation and for the land use change. No problems with that. But regarding ordinance 2022-44, yes, we had a community meeting. Concerns were voiced. And not any of those have been met. Maybe one or two small things. But still, we have big concerns, and I'm glad the map is up. The Narcoossee Road entrance, we understand, has to go through the county, which should be a very simple process from what the county has told me. We are requesting that the entrance off of Albany Avenue be abolished and relocated to 2 or 3 of the sites at the very top that abut Chisholm Park Trail so that traffic is coming in and out either on Chisholm Park Trail or onto Narcoossee Road, not Albany Avenue. There will be others that will speak tonight to some other special conditions, so I will not be redundant. But their issues and their concerns, if addressed and resolved, will ensure compatibility with the existing communities, safety concerns, and actually enhance the quality of growth within our community. Yes, the developer has agreed to some larger lots. It's not adequate. It just isn't adequate. If we could have larger lots, longer driveways could be established, that would resolve some of the parking issues. Let's don't have another cookie cutter development that this county and city is overrun with now. Let's look for quality, for some different choices for people to make so that they come in. You go in one subdivision, they all look alike. Let's become unique, and this is an excellent place with its adjacency to the park to establish this. And please remember that once you discuss this and you put it up for a motion, that regardless of if the developer or the representative comes back and says, yeah, we'll do this or we'll do that, if you don't put it in your motion, it is not binding. So please remember that factor.
Thank you, Betty. Kristen Nuzzo, did I pronounce that right?
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Nuzzo. I am from 1018 Twisted Branch Lane. That's the Chisholm Estates community. I am the president of the HOA, and I'm speaking on behalf of all 59 homeowners in that community. To be honest, we are also in agreement with the annexation. I think what has been spoken with all of my neighbors is the desire to have the community be comparable to our current community. I bought my home about 8 years ago at a wonderful price that I'm very proud to say of $230,000. A home in my same neighborhood that has 1,000 square feet less than mine sold on August 2nd, 2023 for $490,000. I would like to retain that value by making sure that we have homes that are comparable to the homes that we currently have. Obviously, my home was built in 2006. I'm not trying to compare apples and oranges, but it would be nice to have a home that is in our neighborhood, in our area, that does kind of resemble our same neighborhood style. The other piece that I want to talk about is a piece that I, as an HOA president, deal with on a daily basis, which is street parking and the safety concerns that that brings. So short driveways, which we do have short driveways in our neighborhood with 85-foot lot lines, we still have short driveways and have issues with street parking that I contend with on a daily basis that cause safety issues. If we need to have any kind of safety access from ambulance, police, any kind of rescue that we would need, they are constantly dodging different cars that are street parked. The reality is we do want to have great neighborhoods in our area. We want to see development happen. We want homes and families to be able to move into them, but we want to have them in a way that really benefits our community and makes our community better. I do believe that it is very possible to have a community very similar to ours. The acreage is about the same, and we have 59 homes in our neighborhood, all of which have been reselling like crazy on the market right now. There's one currently on the market for above $450,000. I assume it will sell very quickly because that has been the way of the market at this time. If we have homes that go into this neighborhood that are not compatible, that are much smaller, that just really are not able to compare, now we're going to have our property values being compared with these properties that are just not the same. Because when the calculators come out, they don't take into account the lot size as much as they should, right? So in the past, when they've taken into account and done any kind of I don't know, anything. It's never been exactly how it should be, and we just want it to be comparable. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Jackie, you want to pronounce that last name for me?
Friccione.
I'll let you come and do the Friccione, is that right?
I'll help you out. It's Jackie Friccione. I live at 4872 Chisholm Park Trail. Good evening, council. We're back again. So we have some major issues with the PUD as it stands tonight in front of you. And as Kristen has said, we had over 67 residents last time at the first meeting sign the petition on this development. We are a united community. We are asking for 5 major things to be addressed that have not been addressed previously at the community meetings or through any of the communication with the builder or developer. Number 1 are the lot sizes are no way incompatible to this area from Rummel Road all the way to Majestic Oaks on Narcousie Road. We are asking for a minimum matching the minimum lot width at Chisholm Estates of 85-foot minimum front with 120 feet deep. The lots at Chisholm Estates go from 85 feet up to 101 feet wide. We are requesting that all lots in this development be the same size. Number 2, the ingress and egresses. We asked for the ingress and egress on Narcousie Road, which that has not been applied for or approved by the county, and they have had a year to do it. The second ingress and egress we have asked to be directly across from Chisholm Estates. That will take 240 cars needlessly onto basically a private road of Albany Avenue. Number 3, we want the construction entrance from site to completion to be used only at the Narcousie Road entrance. Then we want the amenities that belong to this development not to impact the residents on Albany Avenue. We are asking for any amenities parking be inside their development, no street side parking. We are also asking for the enhanced dense buffer landscaping examples that we submitted to staff to also include adding the high buffer plantings to all the medium buffer areas. That is in detail. Staff has been sent and council has been sent examples and pictures of what we are asking for. We are also requesting, even though another resident is requesting this, due to we want this to be a long-term community that will stay looking nice 20, 30, 40 years from now, we have requested that they use stone stucco combination entrances with any type of slat fencing, preferably composite because it lasts longer. And please, we need no vinyl fencing of any kind. We would like to have metal or composite fencing because it lasts, it's zero maintenance, and it stays looking nice for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Huff.
Hi there, I'm Steve Huff. I live at 1077 South Lake Avenue, and that's right down on the lake, I guess I'd say west of where the subject property is. Big concerns, and then I'm going to donate the rest of my time over to Jackie, is the traffic in and out. Being on the lake, we're the tail end of all the traffic, and it's bad enough on a Saturday afternoon. I can't imagine putting an extra 100 cars daily in and out and through, and runs to Publix and everything that goes with that. I've also I've been volunteering at the McCormick Institute for about 5 years, and the property that we walk the horses through are right along the back end of the property there. We take autistic children and PTSD veterans through there. And my understanding is there'd be no fence or buffer on the park side of that. Maybe I'm mistaken. I didn't hear that from anyone. But a barking dog is a quick way to lose a child right off the back of a horse. So would appreciate if any consideration for the some kind of a fencing or buffer on the back side of the park is there as well. And I'll donate the rest of my time to Jackie, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jackie has already spoken. Thank you. Brian Bennett.
Brian Bennett. I'm at 1125 Albany Avenue. I'm one of the two houses that actually live on Albany Avenue. Myself and Sandra Jennings, she couldn't be here tonight, so I'd represent her interests as well. To the south of her property, we've done nothing to address the lot sizes. Again, like the rest of the property, we would like to have 85 feet minimum widths and 120-foot depth on all of the lots at a minimum. And again, as they've said, we would like to have Albany Avenue dead end and not have the traffic for this development go up through Albany Avenue. We would love to see that go out onto Chisholm Park Trail. Again, if they put a walking entrance in there, they've already separated the home lots in there. It would be pretty easy to put a driving path in through there as well. And then to be able to take all of the surface parking and the street parking that would service their pool out from in front of our homes, because right now they've got it set up to do street parking out in front of our homes as well. I really appreciated somebody mentioning property values in here. I was approached multiple times by Home Dynamics to actually buy my property, and they called me on my work phone. And it got to the point where it was ridiculous how many calls I was getting, and I got frustrated with them and suggested if they wanted to give me $1 million, then I would go ahead and sell to them. They were suggesting that they buy it for less than I paid for it, and when I asked them why, the lady indicated that the housing values are going to go down based on this development. So going into this, we were aware that they never had an intention to meet the community standards or to build a quality community that was in line with what would preserve our home values in these neighborhoods. I just stopped taking their calls, and that stopped more than a year ago. But the last conversation was very disappointing, talking to them with Home Dynamics. They have not addressed either Sandy's or my issues on Albany. The one thing that I do say that they did is they had an entranceway that went directly into my front window of my house, and they have moved that and readdressed that. But the rest of our issues, like elevated berms, traffic coming in and out of Albany, those issues have not been addressed, and they've not further talk to us about anything outside of the community meeting. So I'm very disappointed in the proposal that's here. I know Sandy's very, very disappointed in the lot widths that are directly to the south of her property. It's that little portion that juts out to the left, or to the right, excuse me. And we're happy to have new neighbors. We just don't want them this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Gary Baggett.
We live at Old Oak Trail, 4825. Our property adjoins that retention pond, and I see they have a footpath or whatever proposed for that. Well, we are very much opposed to that foot trail being there because the people are going to be throwing trash on our property. We've already been through that, and when I find that trash, I'm going to bag it up and carry it over there to the clubhouse, and if I find the addresses on there, I'm going to go to their door. So this is just not acceptable to us, and those lot sizes are ridiculous. I mean, 100 feet would be livable. You could get a vehicle from the front to the backyard. Okay, now they're talking like 62 feet. Well, that's just doesn't get it. Our next door neighbor has 75 feet by 150, and he's trying to buy property from us because it's just not enough. He can't get a vehicle around to the back and all of that. So it would make a much nicer development if it had a little bit bigger lots, and if they needed to, up the price some, they could put in some high-end appliances and a state-of-the-art kitchen or whatever to increase their price and make the money they feel they need to make. But no, this footpath is, I don't know if it can be rerouted, but it really needs to. There's going to be nothing but trouble for us, but hopefully this can get worked out to where these lot sizes are a little bit bigger, and it'll be a much higher end development. Would be an asset to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, I'll ask the applicant to step back up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what I didn't do is go through everything that you have in your packet. There are several things that I should have mentioned and I didn't, so I'd like to now. There is a berm and there is enhanced landscaping that's in your packet. There are also architectural enhancements that have been agreed to in your packet. There's also the buffer that's bigger. So what I want to make sure everybody understands is that instead of going to straight zoning, what we did in this PUD is we added in those things because those are conditions of approval. And so we also presented some elevations in the PUD as well. So all of those would be part of what you're approving tonight. And I should have made that clear. So instead of doing the straight zoning, we have been able to give a higher quality of subdivision for your consideration instead of just a straight zoning application. The talking about the on-street parking and that kind of thing, the code has changed since that subdivision was built, and it's got longer driveways than what they were required at the time to build in the county. So that should be addressed as far as cars sticking out onto the road. The other thing I wanted to really talk about is Albany Avenue. Albany's a platted road. We are required to improve it by all codes. So not having the entrance come in off of Albany doesn't make any sense because we have to improve it no matter what. If that P area goes to the larger 75-foot lots, that pedestrian access would have to be removed in order to accommodate those bigger lots. There will be lots lost, obviously, by going from 62.5 feet to 75 feet. So that would be redesigned. And what I would ask is that if you agree to that, that you give authorization to staff to approve that layout of the larger lots within that P area. So I would also like to address tonight any questions that you all have at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to the council and for discussion or questions. Councilmember Urban.
Mayor, if you don't mind, can I pass this out to the council, some of the conditions I've worked out with staff?
Yes, you can.
So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for speaking. I do understand the.
I'm sorry, Mr. Urban, do we have one we can put up, at least up on the screen?
Sure.
Yes.
Can you,
On the overhead.
Claudia, can you put it up there? Thank you.
Did you give her a copy?
I did, yes.
Okay, good.
So this is, in my opinion, one of the most prized areas in St. Cloud, being one of our most precious natural resources when it comes to Chisholm Park. So I believe this area should reflect that and whatever is developed here. Nobody can have everything they want. If I had everything I wanted, I would have just extended Chisholm Park and made this more of the park or a cow pasture. But I do want to thank staff and thank the residents that I spoke with. I did speak with many residents and discussed this, and I worked with staff and with the applicant, and I was able to come up with some conditions, and of course this is all up for discussion with council, but these conditions are what I think would make this a better place. We've been working on this for over a year, and I think that we have made a lot of strides. It's not perfect, but I think we made a lot of strides, and I just wanted to open that up for discussion with council.
Do you want to read what you're proposing here?
Sure. So I proposed a enhanced tree buffer along Chisholm Park Trail and Albany Avenue, as shown in the diagram there. Enhanced landscape entry feature, approval and timing of entrance and access from Narcousie Road. This would have to be approved before the development is, or I guess if I understand from staff correctly, it would have to come back to us if it's not approved. Is that how it would work? Connect the multi-purpose trail from Chisholm Park Trail to Narcousie Road. Construct the, as was discussed tonight, the 6-foot high vinyl fence along the east perimeter, lots 45, 46, and 47, and along the south perimeter behind lots 48 and 50, between the landscape buffer and the Ball property adjacent to the development. Provide a minimum 75-foot wide lot on the north of Street A, currently inclusive of lots 1 through 30, 68 through 73, and the preliminary master plan. So that's my proposal, and I would, of course, be open to discussion with council.
Would you like to respond to that, those proposals?
Good evening, John Adams. Wow, not used to not talking. John Adams, R.J. Widman Associates, 316 Church Street, Kissimmee. We are the planners for the project. Our client is in agreement with these conditions with one clarification. If in fact we are going to be putting a fence, we would be looking for some relief of the understory and shrubs because they'll be behind a fence. So wherever we put the fence, we would like the understanding that we would just plant the canopy trees. But the other conditions are acceptable.
Okay. Councilmember Gilbert.
Yeah, I believe Ms. Thacker told something that resonated with me, that they'll make it 75 foot for the whole development. Maybe I need to record that, or did I not hear that it'd be 75 foot?
I thought that's what I was told too.
That, I think I heard, and again, I have bad hearing, my age, sorry, Colby, but that it was 75 feet for all development is what I heard during the presentation. Am I wrong?
It was the P part area
Oh,
above,
so
north of Street A.
you separated the area to just, you made it, and I like your P part description, because it makes sense to a guy that talks to grandchildren all the time.
Right.
But, so the whole development wouldn't be 75 foot, just the P part area?
That's correct.
Okay, now, I needed clarification, because I was under an understanding, I put a big check mark when you said 75 for all the lots. Thank you.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I can't read this map. Can we put it up on the screen so I can see the lot numbers?
It's
It was on the screen in a presentation, yeah, because I want to see what Colby is saying the fence is going to go. 45, 46, 47.
It's on the south side of Street A towards Narcousie, where the,
Young Eyes, can you point it out
So
to me?
it would, so right here, the residents in this area requested it. I'm okay with that as well if
Yeah, what's,
45, 46, 47, and then where's 48 and 50? Here, you can zoom in. Thank you. Thank you.
can you draw it too? No, I think it's just a pointer.
Okay, so what do you say?
There's 45, 46, and 47.
46,
Right
47.
there. And then it turns the corner there, and you got 48.
Can you come up to the mic if you're going to speak?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I'm Dave Tomac. 40, the eastern side, the 3 lots are right here. And then it turns the corner there, and the 2 lots that he's mentioned just turn that corner there, and that's the south side of 48 and 50. And I think Mr. Ball actually suggested that his neighbor to the right was also included, so you would just add a lot to it. Does that make sense?
when I visited the site, I believe there were some existing fences already in place, so this
Yeah.
is just to kind of fill in the gap of what's not there.
So I believe all the existing fences are on the Walker property,
Oh, okay,
so they're all going to go away. So I think that's the concern.
that makes sense.
Okay. Mr. Gilbert, your line is still on.
I know, I had another question. I'm so sorry, Mayor, that I'm trying to equate the P area versus the other area, so please forgive me for my ignorance. But it looks like 16 lots will not suffice in the 75-foot area as we look at, and I'm just going to brief it, from 50 over to 61. Are those are the lots that would not accommodate the 75-foot. Listen to our residents and understand that 75-foot was something that they were looking forward to having on all the lots. So you're telling me the P area is all going to be 75, just from my understanding, and the other ones are not?
The other ones would continue to look like what's being presented up here.
Yeah, and I see that, and I apologize because I'm not a mathematician, a historian buff, but it has no dimensions on that area outside the P lot. The P lot does have the 75, 105, 95, but 67 and 50 don't have any dimensions. Are they 62, are they 52, are they 82? I apologize for not knowing that.
So I can't see the numbers from where I am.
Here.
The PUD, in the language, it has a minimum of 62.5 feet for all the lots.
A minimum.
I just need clarification of that, and thank you for clarifying that. So out of all the lots, I'd go from the right of the P lots are 62 feet at a minimum, is that what we're saying? And to appease our residents that live there, and again, I'm all business guy, would it be that difficult to make those 75? Again, I'm not here to run your business, I'm not a developer, but will we lose a lot and a half? And I understand it's about money, I get that. If we said to the residents, which have been very strong-minded about compromise and working with all this, I do believe, would it be that much of a sacrifice to maybe lose a lot or two to make it all 75 and above? Just a question. I'm not here to
Nope,
tell
I
you to do your
understand.
business.
I appreciate that. So by changing the ones in the P lot, we're losing probably 6 lots
6
already.
Okay, thank you.
Plus, if we're going to go to 75-foot lots, that's just straight zoning in R1. And then we won't have buffers and extra landscaping and that kind of thing.
Right.
So this was the compromise that we tried to reach, that we'll do, you know, like half of it with 75, keep the other at 62, and have this interconnectivity, the landscape, the berms, the extra buffers, those kinds of things is what, and architectural standards. So that's what we were trying to achieve.
Okay, thank you. I like I said, I'm not a developer, so thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Question for staff. Since this is a PD, we can request any lot size we want, right? And then still request the enhanced buffers and everything? We don't have to go back to the straight zoning at 75-foot lots?
That is correct. You do
Thank
not
you.
have to go back.
Do we have any other discussion from council? Do you have anything else for us?
No, sir. Thank you.
Do we have a motion? Let's, I guess our first issue is the annex.
I would appreciate some discussion on the PD to understand before we take a vote
Okay.
on the annexation. And then if we have to continue it to address whatever.
I think that's fair enough.
Thank you.
What is the pleasure of the council regarding the R1 status or the PUD? The size of lots seems to be the main issue. Well, to me, it's a frustrating thing. You know, this is one of the things I hate about being on the council. No matter when you vote on an issue like this, you're not going to make everybody happy. You're going to make some people happy, you're going to make some people upset. But that's part of what our job is. You know, if they withdraw this and take it back to an R1, you're looking at no enhancements, no landscaping, and they certainly, as the owners of the property, they have a right. That's one of the constitutional rights that we have, to be able to buy land, live on that land, and develop that land as long as we meet the requirements of what the code and the law says, and that's what they've done. And on this PUD development, you know, they have certainly done their best to add a number of things that would enhance this development. I certainly like the proposals that Mr. Urban has added there. You know, they've enlarged the buffer, the landscaping, changed the entrance, the layout. They've had the approval of the planning committee, the approval of city staff, the recommendation of approval by the city manager. So whatever we're going to do on this PUD, explain to us again what lots specifically you said you've agreed to be 75 foot. Put it up on the screen and take your pointer so everybody knows how big this P is.
Again, for the record, John Adams, R.J. Whitman Associates. I think I can describe it. It is the P area, but everything north of Street A.
Do you have a pointer?
Where's the pointer? Okay. everything north of Street A and west of Albany Avenue. This entire area will be 75-foot wide minimum lots.
Wow. That's a big concession. So you're in agreement with that?
Yes, sir.
So if we add that, what else are you adding?
So I would like to add the conditions that I passed out to the council and the clerk, as well as staff's conditions that they have in the agenda packet. If I may, Mayor, just speak a little bit more on this. We just heard in our budget that one of the capital projects is a Chisholm Park master plan. This is one of the most beautiful natural resources that we have in our city, and we have a lot of them. So I felt like I fought to make sure that this area reflects that. We didn't get everything we wanted. I worked with staff, I worked with residents, I worked with the applicant, and we were able to get some concessions that I feel okay with moving forward. As was mentioned, they could build up to 204 units in the county if this was denied by the city. 204 units. This is a way better product than what is in the county. Of course, like I said, I'd love to see it become a cow pasture. I don't subscribe to the idea that that density is key. We're not Celebration, we're not Harmony, we're St. Cloud, Florida, and so we need to have that identity, especially in the Chisholm Park area. So with that said, I would make a motion for approval with all of my conditions that was given to the clerk and the staff's conditions on the agenda.
Mr. Manzares?
Given how this has been presented, I'm okay with if you want to do that. I am starting to get a little concerned, and only because my office and staff are going to have to end up documenting this up, and there's already been one comment made about how these conditions are need to be put in there. I'm almost, if the council is okay with moving this ahead, in other words, continuing it to allow some of this stuff to be at least redrawn so you can kind of see it a little better, that might be a better way to address this. To include a plan that shows the additional lot sizes, shows ultimately how many lots would be there, because you're still even not sure what the final number of lots is going to be if you move those, if those 62.5-foot ones move to 75.
So this is a PUD, and we would have to bring the PS back to you as well, which would show that. So that's why you get to see it again.
Yeah, I understand that, Mr. Agatha, but I think the council is struggling with looking at some of these issues and these conditions, and I certainly want to make sure whatever conditions are needed are in the PD so that they can be enforced at a later date. And we're kind of doing it a little bit on the fly right now. But
can it come back to the very next council?
I guess we would, it's my suggestion to the council. I think that would be dependent on how quickly you guys could redraw some of these plans.
We'll have the plans done next week.
So we're looking at continuing all three items
Yes.
to our next council meeting,
Well,
hopefully?
if that's the desire of the council,
And you're looking at 75-foot lots here in the P area.
we can have plans early next week to city staff.
It would need to be early next week. We start working on the agenda tomorrow, and it's published on Friday. So we would need it early in the week so we have the opportunity to look at it also. That's perfect. By close of business, I heard, I'll take that. Thank you.
And again, I don't mean to delay it, but
I understand. We gotta have clarity.
Clarity and make sure we have the right thing, because the preliminary master plan will follow the PD conditions, so we got to make sure the PUD conditions are correct.
Okay.
I think it's just a PS that will come to you.
Oh, the PS.
Or no? Right.
Well.
So we would then request that all three be continued until the next council meeting, and we will commit to having revised drawings to you by tomorrow afternoon, close of business. Yeah.
All right? So do I need a motion for continuance?
If all three, yes.
Can I do all three at the same time?
I will let you.
Please.
Mayor, can I add something?
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. So I know I met with a few residents, and one of the concerns was about fencing around the perimeter, not just for Mr. Ball's lot, but also that there's going to be no barrier between whatever lot numbers those are on the west side and Chisholm Park over there. Is it possible to add fencing to the edges? Because I know the resident to the north of, in that little keyhole there, the north, yeah.
Where?
Northeast corner there. No,
Here
go
or
over
here?
to the other side. Go. Yeah. It's a lady that lives just north of your east-west step out. Yeah, like there's gonna be no barrier there either. Like, is it possible to add fencing around the perimeter where?
So there are beautiful trees along that area that would remain, and then there's a 25-foot buffer, but if that's the will,
Yeah, so like fencing there and along the west edge to Chisholm Park, just to
Here?
provide, yeah, to provide a barrier there, because there's an existing barbed wire fence, but I believe it's on the subject property. So that will go away, so that will be like, we have horses and all kinds of people using the park, and then along the whole southern perimeter. Just thoughts of council. I think it would be nice to have it where.
So that,
Basically
Right
around all
here?
the sides except where Albany is.
not here either, right?
No, yeah.
Or here. But around this pond, it's a trail, and having a fence along where the trail is probably isn't going to be conducive to have people use it. So we would ask that there would be no fence. And if there's some kind of like not a vinyl fence or something that's needed here, I didn't know that horses come straight along this line. That's really treed.
There's trails.
Right. So if there's a trail there, do we want to continue to have that? If
What does the trail connect to?
this trail connects,
It's really just like internal users.
this is the continuation of the trail, the 12-foot trail on Chisholm Park Trail.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Yeah, with all due respect, if it's a pond and there's so many retention ponds area, they're not required to have fencing. And if there's a trail, I don't know if it takes away from the serenity of the trail. Maybe I'm wrong, but if you're walking, you might want another piece of brick, another piece of vinyl, another piece of something. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think personally, this is just a personal thing, I'm 1/5 of the squeeze here, but the fence there would diminish the trail, the beauty of the trail. Just my opinion again. Been wrong a lot of times, but I think a fence would not enhance it, would deter from the trail.
Councilmember Urban.
Along a split rail fence.
Councilmember Urban.
Is it possible for the on-street parking to all be within the development and not along Albany Trail? Now, that was a concern of the residents as well.
So it's only on one side of the street, on the development side. I would have to see, but one thing my client did agree on here, a split rail fence that would continue the atmosphere of the whole subdivision. And we'll show those details on the revised plans.
We can hear you whispering.
So they would be happy to do that, to give a little bit of some kind of definition and still maintain.
Thanks.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to consider bringing this back?
We understand the concern, the issues. Allow us the opportunity to present something in a revised plan to accommodate those concerns.
And we thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I just wanted to say something to council. It's a PUD, right? So the parking spaces on Albany, we could waive that requirement if we didn't want to have the parking spaces. That's part of the 4.5. So.
Yeah, if you don't
I
want
think
them.
it's 12 spaces. We could just
fine with that.
remove them.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we done? I make a motion for continuance of these 3 items.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mayor made a motion for continuance. Councilmember Fletcher made a second. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
That's a continuance till September 28th.
Sir?
Continuance till September 28th.
Till September 28th.
Thank you.
You guys got some hustling to do.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Gee, we get to do this again. Madam Clerk brings us to items 6 and 7. Could you please read those into the record?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-24, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation, commercial, to approximately 0.32 acres identified as Ohio Avenue Commercial Complex located south of 11th Street, north of 12th Street, east of Florida Avenue, and west of Ohio Avenue, providing for amending the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effects, suburbility, copies on files, and effective date. Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-25, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing for the zoning amendment of the zoning map of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, specifically changing the zoning designation of approximately 0.32 acres identified as Ohio Avenue Commercial Complex from P Professional Zoning Designation to CBD-2 Central Business District 2 zoning designation with a commercial future land use designation adopted by ordinance number 2023-24, generally located south of 11th Street, north of 12th Street, east of Florida Avenue, and west of Ohio Avenue, providing for entering the designation on the official zoning map, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Thank you. Good evening, Melissa Dunklin. This is the final hearing for the request for comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendment for the project known as Ohio Avenue Commercial Complex. The proposed change will not have an effect on city facilities. However, considering that there are no minimum parking requirements for development in the central business district, the proposed zoning map amendment may adversely influence living conditions in the neighborhood by potentially increasing the number of cars parking in the undesignated areas of Ohio Avenue. And Ohio Avenue is a local road that has not been improved to urban standards. And with that said, the existing land use is private institutional. They're proposing commercial. The existing zoning is professional, and they're proposing CBD 2. Here is a graphic representation of the future land use and the zoning maps depicting the private institutional land use and the professional zoning districts for context. This request meets the strategic plan goal for growth management. On August 1st, 2023, DRC recommended denial based on policy 1.5.1 of the comprehensive plan. On May 16th, 2023, our Planning Commission recommended approval of the land use and zoning map amendment. However, when these requests were presented to the Planning Commission, staff was reviewing the findings of fact based on the proposed commercial development not being able to develop under the existing conditions. After further analysis, staff recognized that the proposed development could be approved under the existing land use and zoning with approval of a variance. Staff supports approval of the variance. Expansion of the central business district requires approval of a concurrency management study, and additionally, CBD2 does not require on-site parking, but does require a minimum 35-foot building height. Based on the minimum 35-foot height, the potential building could be 2 stories and will add parking on a current residential block whose street has not been constructed to handle it. Also, there is no public parking yet in this area. Therefore, staff is recommending denial of ordinances number 2023-24 and 2023-25, and staff is available for questions, and I believe the applicant is also present.
Would the applicant like to speak to these recommendations?
Good evening, Eric Jarvis, J. Crew Construction, 3585 Kaiser Avenue, St. Cloud. Just request that the council continue with the approval of this project, just like at the last council meeting. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you have any other comment? We'll just stand aside. We'll call you back up if we have any questions.
Thank you.
Would anyone of the audience like to speak to these items? If not, we will have discussion and a motion by council. Councilmember Athena, your light's on.
Oh, sorry, that's open.
You're forgiven. Any discussion by council? Then that's in regard to the first ordinance, 2023-24. What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Urban and a second from Councilmember Fletcher for approval of 2023-24. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
It's a no for me, consistent with the recommendations from staff for parking.
Mayor Blackwell.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of ordinance number 2023-25.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Councilmember Urban for
Second.
approval. Do I have a second? Got a second
Second.
from Councilmember Fletcher, I believe. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
No.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Brings us to item number 8 on the agenda. Madam Clerk, please read that into the record.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-38, an ordinance of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending the City of St. Cloud General Employees Retirement System, amending Section 4, Finances and Fund Management, amending Section 6, Benefits, Amounts, and Eligibility, amending Section 7, Pre-Retirement Death, amending Section 15, Minimum Distribution of Benefits, providing for codifications, providing for suburbility of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Good evening, Justin Kleesner, Human Resources Director. This item is to approve a 1% cost of living increase every year for our pension participants and those in the drop as well. This is for our general employees pension. This is something that was requested by council for us to look into earlier this year. And so this one will guarantee that 1% every year moving forward.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Councilmember Gilbert. We'll have
Yeah.
discussion, motion by council.
Yeah, the 1% I agree to, and you've done a great job, so I appreciate that. What, in future councils may not be around, is there a way to rescind this at a certain point if the economy gets to that way? And I don't know, but maybe I'll ask the attorney this, is, yes, today, right now, 1% does make sense. I'm not doom and gloom guy, but down the road, we might want to be able to pull that back or increase it at one point. Is that available, or is this a forever thing?
As far as increasing it, you certainly can.
Well, just
I'm
like
sorry.
insurance, you increase all the time. They say, oh, your rates, they change. No, they just go up. So I mean, can you rescind it at a certain
I mean, there's an option to be able to do that, but as future councils will know, it's difficult to take away something you've given already.
Okay.
So from a legal perspective, yes. From a practical perspective, it might be difficult for a future council.
Big ass. Yeah. Again, if I could predict the future, I'd win the lotto, but I just.
Can I have the numbers, please?
What are we doing here, brother? So yeah, that's the only thing. If it can be, I don't know if it could be conditional or whatever, that it could be revisited during economical downtimes, or I don't have that answer. I'm just, 1% is great, but if the city can't afford it in 15 or 20 years, I don't want to put that burden on.
Or if you can't even afford it next year, you got a problem. Any other discussion? Oh, Mr. Fletcher. Got your light on.
I think I kind of agree a little bit with Councilmember Gilbert. I'm sure the Finance Department will keep an eye on it. If we have any issues, they can bring it back at that time. But for now, I would make a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Councilmember Fletcher, a second from Councilmember Matheny. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Nay.
Mayor Blackwell.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2.
Just want to make this a statement after we've approved that I certainly believe in taking care of our staff, but I think it's not wise to presume upon the future and what you think your revenue is going to be. And this, a 1% increase of pension is ends up being a lot of money. Let's move on to item number 9. Madam Clerk?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-39, an ordinance of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, future amending the City of St. Cloud Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement System, adopted by ordinance number 2006-125, as subsequently amended, amending Section 1, definitions, amending Section 4, finances and fund management, amending Section 6, benefit amounts and eligibility, amending Section 7, pre-retirement death, amending Section 16, minimum distribution of benefits, amending Section 30, supplemental benefit components for special benefits, Chapter 175 and 185 shared accounts, providing for codification, providing for suburbility and provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Justin Kleesner, Human Resources Director. This is the same exact thing that we just voted on, but for police and fire. However, the difference is that for those people who have retired after 2016, they already get this 1% increase guaranteed every year. So we're actually going back and applying this retroactively to those who retired previous to that date. So it's a smaller subsection of people in that case. But again, this is to still provide an automatic 1% cost of living adjustment for those pension participants.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Councilmember Gilbert.
I think there's a gentleman there, Mayor, that raised his hand.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
It's okay. Brian Bennett, 1125 Albany. I've seen a lot of things go before the council today that would be disturbing if they were put before private business. You increased the rates on the healthcare, didn't pass any of that on to the employees. And then you've got guaranteed cost of living increases that are going out to all the employees. For those of us that work in private industry, nobody does that. We pass on the costs to our employees, and even if we've got a pension program through our work, we don't do guaranteed cost of living increases to anyone. To do that with public funds seems irresponsible, and it seems wasteful. There are people who suffer in the community because they can't pay what they're being asked to pay for their homes right now, and they have to make a decision to pay their taxes or pay for medication. And we are passing those costs onto your constituents and onto the public. I'm disappointed that you didn't pass on any of those costs for your healthcare increases to any of the employees. And frankly, you could move into the 20th century and have your employees not be on a pension and just contribute to a 401k like regular business does, where you wouldn't be saddled with long-term pension debt obligations. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item?
Eric Jarvis, 3585 Kaiser Avenue. I myself am a firefighter in this county, 21 years this month. That is this one's directly for police and fire. I would definitely support that. That is one of the biggest things that we go into this career for, is to have a good pension. We give up a lot of our time, family, life, holidays. It all matters. And, it's predating some of the people that have already retired and served the community. I just would like to add my support for this cause. Thank you.
I need both of you to fill out a form, please, if you'll step over to the desk and fill one of those out, please. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? If not, we will have discussion and a motion by Councilmember Gilbert.
I agree and disagree with the first person to speak, and the reason why, being a professional business owner, I've always tried to take care of my personnel. Even during COVID, we never laid anybody off, and we suffered a little bit from that, but we recovered from that from great employees. But there's so many studies, and you've done a great job in studying. We want the best people here to run the city of St. Cloud. We want the best management, we want the best team, we want that. So we actually have to look at those parameters and what the norm is and what's being paid. And I agree with you, we're a 401k, but I work with a lot of unions that are pension plans and pension everything, but I've seen some pensions lose money also. So I half agree with you, but I also agree with your studies and what you've done. I think you've done your homework, so my hat's to you at this point, but I definitely agree to private sector because I've been in it for 37 years and have employees all the time. But are we predating to 2016? I didn't understand that. Who's getting this benefit? Can you explain that? I apologize for not knowing that.
Certainly. So for this specific ordinance, this automatic cost of living increase already exists for those pension participants who retired on or after September 16th, 2016. So anyone who's retired after that date, they already get this automatic increase.
Does that go from now on to 2023 retirees, 2024?
Correct. Yeah, any future retirees. So this specific ordinance is only for those people who retired previous to that date in 2016. So anyone who is a city employee that retired with us prior to 2016, this is retroactively providing them that same 1% cost of living that everyone else gets if they retired after that 2016 date.
And I know the difference between pension and 401ks. As you saw, the tables turn. Companies got rid of pensions because it bankrupted them, because they had such a burden to pay pensions. And 401k would say, hey, what we do is you kick in 5%, we kick in 5%. You can save 10% of your money for retirement, and that has seemed to work. So I don't know if that's something we can look into in the future as we turn the corner with the city of St. Cloud of 401k versus pension, as my friend had mentioned. But I also understand that the cost of living, someone told me last night, they go, you're retired? And I go, yeah. They go, you better get a job. You can't afford a loaf of bread. So I understand the cost of living that does acquire. Thank you, Mayor. Back to you.
Councilmember Fletcher.
I think one of the largest assets we have as a community is our employees. And you'll see that here in just a few minutes as we move down the agenda. Same thing with law enforcement professionals and our first responders. We all know it's difficult. Municipalities are competing for a limited pool of individuals, and I think by doing this, it shows those folks out there that, hey, I do want to work for the city of St. Cloud, and I want to be part of a community that supports their first responders and their employees, both now and long term. So I will support this ordinance as well.
Councilmember Urban.
I just wanted to clarify, because it was mentioned, we did give our active employees a cost of living adjustment, a raise in this year's budget. That's correct? So I just wanted to clarify that, and no decision is made irresponsibly. I know for myself and anybody up here, we all read our 5,000-page agendas and have individual briefings with our city manager and staff, and I know for myself, I truly take each and every one of these issues to heart and seriously, and read as much as I possibly can, and be as educated as I can on this. So like Councilmember Fletcher said, our employees and our former employees are very valuable to us, and we want to make sure that they're taken care of.
Well, I just want to say I agree with that also. I certainly think they're very valuable, and that's the reason for the last 7 years, there's not a single cost of living increase that I haven't supported, and I've also made the motion to increase those increases several times in my tenure for the last 7 years. I just think it's not prudent to presume on the future. You know, you have to look at where you are. If you have a downturn and now you've passed these increases, you can cripple your budget. And I just don't think it's wise to put in automatic increases. That's my problem with step plans. It's the same thing. You know, you're presuming on the future, and then if you have a downturn, it throws the whole budgeting process into a tailspin. And so I'm certainly in favor. If I was just voting on this 1% increase for today, for this year, no problem. I support it. And but the automatic thing that becomes a permanent fixture, I don't think that's a wise decision, because it's not. If it was our money that we were spending, I think we'd be making a different decision here. But we're spending the people's money, and so that. So I can't support an automatic increase. I support a COLA, but not the automatic part. Any other discussion from council? What is your pleasure regarding ordinance number 2023-39?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Fletcher, second from Matheny. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Nay.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2.
Brings us to item number 10, please.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2023-44, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, adopting the recreation and open space elements of the comprehensive plan, providing for filing of the Planning Commission recommendation, approve of publication, applicability, and effect, suburbility, conflict, copies on file, and effective date.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Dagmar Segara, Deputy Director for the Community Development. Tonight, the presentation is an exciting one. We've been working for a year and a half in our comprehensive plan of updating all of our elements, and this is our first element of many that are to come, and we are very excited about this. We've been working with the different departments and in the past year, and we've been coordinating efforts to update the comprehensive plan to be consistent with the city's strategy plan priorities. And at this meeting, as I said, the City Council will be reviewing the recreation and open space element. In summary, the purpose is for the city to strive to provide the citizens with access to recreation facilities and open space areas. The city's leads office in charge of adequately designing parkland and providing public recreation opportunities is the Park and Recreation Department, which the Community Development has been working closely with in updating this element. The purpose of this element is to identify open space and recreation facilities and establish levels of services standards for the provisions such as facilities, and analyze current and projected park and recreation needs based on population projections and establish levels of services standards. So as I mentioned, this is the amendment, the ordinance number for the transmittal. This is the first hearing for transmittal. I know it's no longer DOA, and I'm still trying to learn the new acronyms of the Department of Economic Opportunity, so I apologize for that. But we will be transmitting this element to the state for comments, and the request from staff is approval of ordinance 2023-44. Inconsistent with goal number 1, with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, goal 1 has been modified to establish safety and inclusive opportunities for recreation for all citizens of St. Cloud. In objective 1.1 and 1.2, the city will strive to provide equitable access and maintain parks for all city residents and maximize the potential of each facility. On objective 1.3 and 1.4, the city will strive to enhance and provide comfortable, safe, and inclusive environment to all users, and the city will be promoting safe routes to park for alternative modes of transportation. On objectives 1.5 and 1.6, the city will use park system to protect and protect sensitive areas and coordinate open space, both public and private, to achieve adopted level services. In objective 1.7, the city will continue to coordinate with developers and other agencies to achieve the adopted levels of services and meet the demands of the citizens. This meets the strategic goals of growth management and infrastructure, and it is the staff recommendation to approve ordinance 2023-44. The Planning Commission heard this item at the beginning of this last month, in August Planning Commission, and also recommended approval of the ordinance, and it is requested from this council to approve ordinance 2023-44. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Also, the Director of Parks and Recreation, Stephanie Holcomb, is here also to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. Councilmember Gilbert?
Yes, Stephanie, can you put that in layman's term for me?
So I'm gonna try, and she can fill in the blanks that you might ask. But the comp plan has not been updated since 2002. Since then, a lot of changes have passed, and a lot of things have happened in the city that had already met the goals and objectives from 2002. So as we move forward into the next 30 years, we want to address the levels of services based on the population and provide for the needs of the population. So the goals and objectives of this plan are going to be they're going to be consistent with the Park and Recreation Master Plan that I believe that was approved last year, if I'm not mistaken. So what we're going to aim is to address facilities, acquire facilities, improve facilities, and keep coordinating with the county to address the levels of services and the population needs for the city.
Okay, so the county is going to be our go-to, that's our model that we're working after?
I'll have Stephanie answer that question better than I can.
I'm so sorry, I just.
But I believe that there is an agreement between the city and the county, but I believe that the city has final say on their parks.
Hi, I'm sorry, Stephanie Holcamp, Parks and Recreation Director. Can you repeat the question?
Well, the first one was put in layman's terms, and
Okay.
the second one was, she mentioned the county and us in 2002, which is 21 years ago, has not been updated, so just kind of fill us in what we're doing here, if you could.
Yeah, like Dagmar said, we have to update the comp plan as part of our state requirement. So it's just to develop levels of standards that we're going to have. And it also, from this, then we develop our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So a lot of the information that's in here is in our master plan, our overall master plan.
Well, I thank you, because we talk about Parks and Rec a lot here, and some of our services that we offer in St. Cloud are being utilized from Osceola County at the same rates that our St. Cloud residents are getting shut out of. So we're updating all that. You're doing a great job, by the way, I'm not saying any of that. But we're adopting to that, because I look at the Parks and Rec as a big thing for growth, and but then I look at records like us, the more people play in the baseball league from Osceola County, not from St. Cloud, and then we're always full. So is that something we're trying to update our master plan to take care of the citizens of St. Cloud?
Yeah, so I mean, part of our goal, as we all know, and we've talked about and discussed in many meetings, I mean, I wouldn't say, we are in need and deficient in certain things, ball fields, soccer fields, and all that. And this just helps us address those needs to keep us on track.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation.
Do we have any other discussion from council? What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Councilmember Matheny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Could you please item number 11? Madam Clerk?
First reading and introduction of ordinance number 2023-45, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Article 2, definitions, sections 2.1.1, amending Article 3, zoning regulations, amending Table 3-4 and Table 3-5 of the Land Development Code, amending Division 20, supplemental district regulations, sections 3.20.38, accessory dwelling units of the Land Development Code, providing for suburbility, conflict, and effective date.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Dagmar Segarra, Deputy Director, Community Development. Another exciting item tonight. This item tonight in front of you for consideration is the adoption of a new policy or land development code standards for accessory dwelling units. As we know, and the big topic of conversation in the entire nation and here in Florida is affordable housing and the lack of housing and the missing middle. So we have done some research and study, and this is one step to move towards the right direction to address that missing middle. This amendment of the Land Development Code would allow accessory dwelling units in agricultural and residential zoning districts throughout the city. It would establish regulations and standards for ADU within the city that promotes a variety of housing options and affordable rental options. And it will protect the stability, property values, and single-family residential character. Staff is recommending approval to this amendment. What is the value of an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit? Well, affordability. It can be used as an affordable housing tool for low and moderate income individuals. It could also be used for the care of elderly and persons with disability, and also will provide family flexibility for young adult children and life changes. In the Article 2 of definitions on the Land Development Code, we're recommending to add a definition of what is an accessory dwelling unit, which will be a dwelling unit that exists in either as part of the principal dwelling or as an accessory building on the same lot, and is secondary and incidental to the use of the property as a single-family residential that has a separate kitchen, bathroom, and sleeping area unit. And as we continue with the presentation, we're going to get examples of what that means. In addition to the definition, we are amending footnotes of tables on Table 3-4 to include that excluding accessory dwelling units for the minimum square footage of 900 square feet for residential homes that the city currently has, and also to exclude the accessory dwelling units from the 50% maximum lot coverage. This would enable the possibility to have the dwelling units or the accessory dwelling units on lots that are narrow, or that they're all lots, or what we call non-conforming lots. The other amendment is to include the allowing the accessory dwelling units into the table 3-5 in all, as you can see, in the agricultural in all residential districts, excluding the mobile home districts. How many dwelling units can be per parcel? 1. The density calculation, they will be exempt. In other words, if we have a dwelling unit that is an LDR, which allows 1 dwelling unit up to 4 dwelling units per acre, they can, if they already have 1 single dwelling unit, they can have another one because they're going to be exempt from that calculation. What is the maximum size? They can all go up to 60% of the principal structure, not to exceed 1,000 square feet on lots that are greater than 1 acre. The dimensional standards, the rear setback shall be a minimum of 10 feet from the property line, and all other setbacks will have to be met, the side setbacks, and they cannot be placed on the front yard. The parking requirement will be 1 parking space per ADU, in addition to the single-family requirement that we have in the Land Development Code of 4.5 parking spaces. The architectural standards, it has to be consistent with the existing principal building. The occupancy, it has to be, a homestead will be required, and no short-term allowed for 30 days, as defined in our Land Development Code. The impact fees will be assessed under the impact fee schedule, and impact fees may be waived for affordable housing. We are still putting together a process of how achieving this. We have seen that in other municipalities, the creation of affidavits and the statement recognizing that there's going to be a affordable rental will control that condition. The addressing utilities required to have a separate address and may, but not required to have a separate meter. So these are some examples of how this ordinance, or what we could permit it. We could have a house that is going to be detached from the principal structure, and it cannot be in front of the already existing structure. It has to be on the same setback of the principal structure. It could be that same unit, but attached to the principal structure. It could be above an attached garage, or it could be inside of a dwelling unit, creating a separate entrance. Or they could take the existing garage and convert it into an accessory dwelling unit. Or they can create the accessory dwelling unit inside of the principal structure to have a separation, an interior separation from the inside. These are some examples of what it may look. This information has been obtained by the homeowners project that had created a magnificent guidelines for the state of Florida. This is something that it is being supported by the legislation with the Live Local Act as well. So we can have a detached ADU, that this is an example, that is a detached one, and an attached one from the rear. As you can see, the access is from back of the building. And in the middle is a sample ADU, as you can see, that is it's a narrow space, but it's comfortable for living for about 2 adults and a child. So these are samples of what might look in areas such as like the grid, or such areas that have already been established. This sources from the Orange County Planning and Zoning Division when they did their presentation of the ADUs and adopted it a couple of years ago. So as you can see, these are and highlighted in yellow are the possible locations of the ADUs that can be located on those existing lots. And here you can see a more bird view of how that can look as well. This meets the strategic goal of growth management. As staff recommends approval ordinance 23 2022-45. The Planning Commission heard this item and also recommended approval, and it is a City Council requested action to recommend approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this proposal? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. Councilmember Fletcher.
I'm very excited actually about this ordinance, and thank you staff for bringing this in front of us. I only had one question. So when we have a PUD come before us, so a large PUD, would this be something that could be included in that as well? Like, I know Celebration has a lot of additional ADUs out there. How would that affect larger developments?
So larger developments, is up to the developers if they want to include that in their bylaws or in their PUD ordinance. If it's a pleasure of the board to mandate some provisions to allow them, we can work with legal and come up with some language to do so. But as of now, it's really at the discretion of the developers.
Okay. Because, obviously with the affordable, having affordable housing and things like that, I know a lot of folks, who have, college students at home or grandparents and things of that nature. But I definitely think it's something that we should look at in the future for the larger. Thank you.
Councilmember Irvin.
Thank you. I love this. Thank you, staff, for bringing this. I can speak from experience. My grandmother lives in one of these in the county, and it's very helpful. It's a great alternative for affordable housing. The family gets to live together, but also have their own separate living units, and it's very helpful, very popular around the state. My question is, and I wanted to discuss this with council, is the proposed impact fees. I'm a fan of impact fees when it comes to charging new development for their impact on our city. But this is an affordable housing alternative. A lot of times this is elderly grandparents in multi-generational homes, or a student that's in college that needs a place to live for something like that, and adding an extra $20,000 to impact fees just to build this. Construction costs are already sky high. And a lot of times these individuals who live in these don't have a lot of impact to our community. They just need a place to live close to family that can help them out, similar to my elderly grandmother. So I would like to propose similar to what Osceola County does, where they do not charge impact fees for their ADUs, but wanted to open that up to the council.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I am excited about this one. I had some language that I was concerned about with this, and I know it's the first reading, so we weren't able to get it all worked out. Our attorney had some comments on it. So I'm just preparing you that I'll have some things coming for the next one. For example, the language about nonconformance for the ADU was confusing to me, and I was like, what is it saying? So my personal feeling is, if you have your primary structure that's non-conforming, I'm not trying to do anything with that, but let's say you are supposed to have a 10-foot setback and your house is 5 feet. I don't think the ADU should be able to be built 5 feet off of the property line. It needs to follow the regulations. Like the non-conformance shouldn't continue, and it's written in a way that it could, which is confusing. And it's confusing, honestly, like when you read it. So that was one of them. I wanted to add some language in there that, you can't move forward with an ADU application if you have any outstanding code enforcement or any issues. Our attorney was thinking that maybe wasn't the most clever way to do it, so he was working on some language, but that was something. I have concern about the lot coverage percentage, because I know when we added in when we went through the whole struggle, which I think it's only me and the mayor now that we're here to do the garages, and then and there was a maximum coverage that was allowed in that, and then it seems like people, I've got a bug flying around me, it seems like people are playing shenanigans with how it's written, and so then it's like it can't be greater than 50, it can't be greater than 60, the ADU doesn't count. I think we need to have some real thought into
how much coverage is allowed for the whole lot. Like, everything comes into, to me, it's like everything comes into the percentage and not excluding. So I wanted to talk about that. The affordable housing portion for me with the impact fees is great, but I said, how on earth are we going to regulate this? Who's regulating this? How is staff going to do that? I don't know that I want to waive all of them, as Councilmember Urban said, but I just don't know how you're actually going to regulate that in the field. Like, how is staff going to know? Everybody's going to say, yeah, it's affordable housing, right? So there's that. And then the other one that causes concern to me is converting garages. That's the whole struggle we have, that we're doing 4.5 parking spaces, right? Like, there's not enough parking. So then if we allow them to convert a garage, and I believe they only have to add 1 parking space, like, aren't we kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with that? Like, I just felt like garage conversions weren't the best, or maybe if you want to convert your garage, well, you'll have to replace that parking. So just some things like that. I love it. I'm glad it's coming. It's here. I just had some concern with some of the details of it. It's first reading. I'm going to move it forward. I just wanted to let you know I had some concerns about those items.
That's a lot of concerns.
I have not a shortage of ideas.
We'll be happy to hear them.
Yes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, you need to let me speak first.
You gotta be quick.
I think this is a great addition that we need. I think we need the flexibility of being able, for people to be able to do more on their property, especially when it comes to meeting the needs of family or someone who's struggling financially. I do agree with Councilmember Matheny that we probably need to make sure we clear up some of these issues here that with garages and parking and space and that type of thing. So I'm certainly willing to support moving it forward. I'll make a second. Do we need any other clarification, Mr. Manzares? Have you heard enough to?
I've heard a lot.
Spending?
Have we advertised this for the 28th?
Yes, we have. We can.
I'm just pointing out there's a lot to get done in 2 weeks.
Well, in 1 day. So.
There's a lot to get done in 13 days, less than 2 weeks.
If it's the pleasure of the board, we can, the second reading, we can do it as a date certain to the October meeting, I
Yeah, I
believe.
think that would be best.
And then we'll be
Yeah.
better prepared.
Perfect. So do we need a motion for that? Can we just agree that it moves?
Yeah,
into
would
the-
you move first reading forward with final adoption on the October
Okay.
12th meeting?
So moved.
All right, and I'll have a second. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Wow. Brings us to item 12.
Mayor?
Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Point of clarification, was the board, the ideas from Councilwoman Matheny, was the board supportive if we could find language just for us to put those in the final version rather than having to make a lot of revisions during the meeting, which gets confusing? I see 1 yes, 2,
Yes.
3.
that
Thank you.
Thank you. That was assumed in the motion. Madam Clerk, please read item 12.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2023-46, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending and restating all sections of the city's employee handbook, providing for suburbility, conflict, and effective date.
Good evening, Justin Kleesner, Human Resources Director. The employee handbook revisions reflect a strategic shift in how we calculate overtime under the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act when an employee uses paid leave time like vacation and holiday time. Currently, our policy counts paid leave hours as hours worked for overtime calculations, which can lead to unintended overtime costs and administrative challenges. The proposed change aims to clarify this practice, ensuring accurate overtime calculations and aligning our policies with best practices and federal law, all while saving the city approximately $250,000 in overtime costs. This policy change is intended for general status employees. Earlier tonight, you approved the police union contracts that contain similar language. This does not impact our fire union members who have different language in their existing contract. Additionally, there are two minor benefits-related changes in the handbook which update current practices and offers insurance to new hires with a shorter waiting period, which helps them make their transition here to the city much smoother for them and their families. City staff recommend approval of this item.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. Councilmember Gilbert.
Great, 100% great. Are we going to adopt this when the fire department comes up for contractual agreement again? Because you said it's part of the union contract with police. It'd just be nice to be smooth across the board instead of having different departments, even though they have different contractual agreements, be the same. So great. I'm glad you caught this. That makes so much sense, but I'd like to continue this when a fire department contract moves on, please.
Yes, we will discuss this at their upcoming contract negotiations, which take place in the next fiscal year.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any other discussion or questions? Could I entertain a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Athena, second from the mayor. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
You guys have been patient. Madam Clerk, please read item 13 into the record.
Resolution number 2023-162R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, granting a conditional use for a keeping and breeding of exotic birds in the R-1A single-family dwelling zoning district on a 0.34 parcel of land generally located north of 4th Street, south of 3rd Street, east of Wisconsin Avenue, and west of Missouri Avenue, as described in the body of this resolution.
Good evening. Again, Dagmar Istagara, Deputy Director, Community Development. And this is an exciting one, too, because I think this is my first one. So this is a conditional use request for the breeding and of racing pigeons, which I didn't know anything about. I learned a lot about racing pigeons in the last month. Staff is recommending approval of resolution 2023-162. The property is located at 326 Missouri Avenue and is approximately 0.34 acres. The zoning of the property is R1A, single-family dwelling zoning district. The future land use is low-density residential. The proposed conditional use is the keeping and breeding of exotic birds. That's the section of the code that we are regulating this conditional use. The development conditional use the conditional use is a single-family dwelling and R1A, and no adverse impacts on city's facility on this request. As you can see, as depicted in the zoning map and the future land use map, the property is surrounded by residential. And in this conceptual plan is the proposed location of the shed that is going to contain the pigeons. And here is a picture that the applicant provided of the exterior of the shed or the structure that is going to keep the pigeons, and is consistent with the architecture of the principal structure. And as in the other two pictures are the inside of where the area of the pigeons are going to be located. This meets the strategic plan goals of growth management. And staff recommends approval with a few conditions. But before we move forward with the conditions, at the time of the upload of this item, we received several letters in support for the use that I would like to turn in for the record for the city clerk. We received approximately 7 letters of in favor of the use. One of the letters is from the league that the owner belongs to, which has some pamphlets as well, what are the requirements and all the stuff that they have to do with the raising pigeons. But one of the conditions that we are imposing into this conditional use is that they have to meet the section of the code that regulates the exotic birds. And I just want to mention a few of them. The applicant has been given the list of all of the requirements. Also, it's going to be part of the resolution as an exhibit of the resolution. Some of the things that the Land Development Code already regulates is that there no more than 30 birds can be kept on the property at any time. If any bird gives, hatch more eggs, that is going to increase that number. They have 30 days that they have to do something, get rid of them, sell them, whatever they do. The city may inspect the property as deemed necessary. If the bird are kept in an outdoor loft, the loft has to be designed and constructed to meet the building code requirements. The loft must have sufficient site and design and construction with strong materials. The loft shall be constructed in the rear and maintain 50 and 25 feet setbacks from 50 from the residence, 25 from the side and rear. The feeding of the birds have to be done confined within the loft. All birds, with the exception of the home raising pigeons, shall be confined to the loft except when being transported. The raising homing pigeons may be released for a limited periods as necessary for exercise training and competition. The owner of the raising pigeons must be a member in good standing of an organized pigeon club, and no raising homing pigeons shall be released to flight for exercise training or competition which has been fed during a period of 4 hours prior to the flight. And the raising homing pigeons shall be banded and registered with one of their tags to indicate that. So that's what conditional 1 is talking about. And conditional 2 is that is there any 3 documented violations to any of those regulations in a 12-month period, the conditional use will be taken before the city council for possible revocation. Staff recommended approval with those conditions as stated. At the Planning Commission recommended denial of the resolution, and it is requested of the City Council to approve the requested conditional use with the conditions stated by staff. The applicant is here to answer any questions that you may have as well.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak to this? Please state your name and address for the record.
Emilio O'Donnell, 326 Missouri Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I want to thank my family, my friends, and my old neighbors to be here too. If you give me the opportunity to say something about myself and my hobby, I'm 60 years old. I live in St. Cloud for 23 years. I'm a tall guy. I'm working around St. Cloud, Kissimmee area all this time. I got my first pair of pigeons when I was 7 years old from my mother. And after that, I've been in love with this animal, and to today, maybe to my last day. I'm a member of American Racing Pigeon Union. We have 10,000 members. The association was opened in 1910, so we have more than 100 years. We have 700 clubs in the United States. And I want to explain a little bit because it's confused for some people, the difference between the city pigeon or the feral pigeon and the racing pigeon. The city pigeon is a pigeon that has to survive every day looking for food, for water, for shelter. The racing pigeon is a pigeon that is a pedigree pigeon. They born to race practically, and we take care everything from food, water, shelter. It's a beautiful loft. I got a picture if you want to see the difference between the loft that you see to now. I don't know what my daughter could. Can you do it? I don't know how to do it.
Oh, I was going to
Okay. Thank you.
Put that on the screen over there.
You guys have a copy of that too. You guys have a copy of that.
Yeah.
That's my loft right now. we have a competition every year between 6 to 7 weeks. We say weeks because it's only Saturday. We train the bird Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 1 hour in the morning, 10 minutes after the sunrise, and an hour before the sunset. The rest of the time, the pigeons stay inside the loft. They have to, inside the loft, so when they come back from the race, they have to go inside in a couple seconds. They can be outside. The pigeon don't go anywhere because they have everything inside. They have the food, they have the water and grid, everything inside. We're training the birds at the young age to go inside the loft. As soon as they finish training, they have to go inside because they know the water, the food is inside. So they don't have to go anywhere. I know some people have a concern because it's a hobby that not many people enjoy. That many people have the same hobby. But I promise you, it's the same love that you guys have for the dogs and cats. It's the same love that we have for the birds. If you want to go now for the ordinance, you guys request, ask for a premise for 30 birds. I have 29. My team is 25 racer and 5 or 4 resting for next week. Every week we change the last 4 or 5 birds. We have 5, for example, waiting in a house. When all the birds came, the days of the race, the 4 old birds will stay next week, for 4. And another thing, it's only 4 weeks. When I say 7 to 8 weeks, the race. You guys ask for one food per bird. I have 120 square feet divided between 60 and 60, males and female. They don't be together. That's another thing. They be out. I have hallways in the middle. You can see the picture. The hallways in the middle. They're always inside. They're capped inside. I got something that we call the bars. As soon as the pigeons come in, they can go out. Not even by mistake. They come out. They have to stay inside the loft. We have a wire, commercial wires on the floor. So when the pigeons do poop, they go to the floor. The floor is a plastic floor. We have 2x6. The wire is on top, so never. The pigeon don't touch the poop on either myself. Another thing that you guys say is, let me see here. It's a family, you ask for, has to be in a family resident. Yes, it's a family resident.
So can I hurry this along? You're agreeing to all the conditions that the city's asking
Yes,
for, right?
yes, that's it, yes.
And
everything
you're not
everything that you
wanting
guys
any
request,
exceptions
everything
at
that
this
I
point.
do every day.
Right?
In my
So I don't
pigeon
think you need to go any further
Okay.
unless.
Yes, good.
Don't mean
Thank
to
you.
cut you off, but I have a whole stack of people here. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a lot of people wanting to speak to this. I hope we won't keep repeating ourselves, okay? Nida Marquez. I'd like to also state that I've gotten 2 letters that one was for and one was against.
Good evening. I'm Nada Marquez. I live at 3185 Bayview Lane. I am actually here representing John and Catherine McGinley. They are ill and they weren't able to be here, so they asked me to come and read their letter on their behalf.
Okay.
Dear City St. Cloud Manager and City Commissioners, I am writing as a concerned, engaged member of our community to address the issue of this resolution. I presented the resolution to the Planning Board on August 15, and I had quite a few questions. Thank you. I had quite a few questions. One being, who's going to monitor how many birds are here? Okay. The other one being, the shed has been built and the fence has been made, but yet resolution has not been approved. So all these things have been put in place. The house is in place, the fence is in place, but nothing has been approved. She's learned that some of these lofts are not in the city. This is the first one we would have. If approved, it would be set a precedence for others to follow suit. The birds are not like chickens, and the ordinance for them is vastly different. St. Cloud allows 4 chickens and no roosters because of their morning wake-up calls and breeding. This ordinance will allow up to 30 birds needing exercise routines outside the loft, when and where, if no control of their flight or their excrement, which causes diseases as well as damage to roofs, landing spots, and staining. He states that the birds go 300 to 500 miles away to race from home. Accordingly, many do not make it, suffer injury or a loss. Prize money is given for the racing of these birds, and the sport of racing is considered inhumane in many animals and birds. We'd like to educate yourselves to the raising, breeding, and sport of pigeon racing and consider all the implications before approving this ordinance. We are grateful for the opportunity to discuss her concerns and would happily collaborate with the City Commission to bring about positive changes. Please accept this letter as my official response to the variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ross Reynolds. How you doing, Ross?
Good. Ross Reynolds, 4555 Canoe Creek Road. Emilio and Vivian have been previous neighbors of ours for 20 years. My house was 600 feet from their loft. I walked past the loft 15 feet from it for 20 years every week. It was 5 years before I even knew he had pigeons. I just thought a couple pigeons like to hang out at his shed. And so never once in 20 years was there a pigeon in my yard, on my house. The pigeons go to the bathroom in the loft. They don't go to the bathroom all around. You don't even know that they're there, quite frankly, honestly. In addition to this, I would say that he probably takes care of his pigeons better than some people do their dogs or their cats. This is his love. It's been his passion for many, many years. And so, you know, in addition to that, I would just simply say taking this from him is like going to somebody's house taking their dog. I mean, this is his love. He's abided by all the rules that have been placed before him, so I really hope that you guys consider passing this. Any questions for me? Great, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ross. Jim Herman, is that correct?
So thanks for the time. My name's Jim Herman. I live at 4325 Sullivan Drive, which is really in Emilio's backyard. So again, I've been there 20 years, my wife and I, and we're going to be repetitive here. But I'm going to echo the fact that this is a true passion of Emilio. And, you know, when someone talks about inhumane, I mean, horses, we race horses, and it's the same thing to Emilio. He's racing birds. There's no difference there, but those birds are actually majestic when they're in flight. You know, when we walk and we take our trash to the end of the road, and I stop and I talk to him, and they're flying, and they come right back into the cage. They don't land on the ground. They're just trained to go back to their place. So there is no worry about them hanging in the yard or excreting in the yard. They're there in their little hut there. So I just thank you for the time, and I hope that you take all of our thoughts into consideration as being neighbors for the last 20 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Viviana?
Hello.
If you'll state your name and address.
Viviana Fernandez, 5408 Sunday Gulch Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, guys. Yes, I got on a flight to come here today and be in front of you guys. First of all, you guys are doing a great job. I was here for the whole thing, so kudos to you. Obviously, my dad, otherwise I wouldn't be here. We haven't had much of a childhood. Our childhood has been centered around these pigeons for my whole entire life. My brother and I are actually quite tired of it ever since the first meeting when we were denied. My dad's awesome. Not because he's my dad. He really loves these pigeons. He takes care of them. He's like got 200 books of veterinary stuff for pigeons. I mean, I was going to sit here and go through the whole ordinance for you, but you've heard it all. I mean, There's really nothing else. So please give him a thumbs up.
So you're in favor of your dad continuing with pigeons, and you don't need counseling.
See, I already moved out of the house, so I don't mind that he continues. No, just kidding. Yeah, I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian.
Otano.
Thank you, Otano. You need to. You have to stand to the mic to speak, ma'am. You don't have to give a long speech.
My
State your
name is
name and address.
Vivian Altano, 326 Missouri Avenue.
Thank you.
I am going to give my minutes to Marjorie Fitton.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marjorie Fitton. We don't normally give away minutes, but I'm going to make an exception for you today.
I was told we could do that. So anyway, I reached out to a lot of you guys. I appreciate it. I'm Marjorie Fitton. I live at 45, my husband and I live at 4565 Canoe Creek Road. We have been the next door neighbor to the Otanos the whole time that they live there. I also want to let you guys know that I work from home for the last 5+ years, and my office window faced the Otanos' home. And I just want to address the concerns that were expressed at the Planning Commission meeting by Planning Commission and the public. So I didn't know about the Planning Commission meeting, or we would have spoken there. But there was a concern about the country versus the city. So I just want to give you guys some perception. The Otanos property is just under an acre. Our property is a little over an acre and a half. So we're not on these big 5-acre tracts or anything like that. I mean, there are no privacy fences, they're just chain link fence, so you can see each other's backyard. We could see the loft at any time. There was a question about, will the racing pigeons get caught in planes? When the racing pigeons are out training, they're just above the trees. And yeah, the trees are tall, but they're just above the trees. So if we got planes coming in that low, you guys got a bigger problem. There was also, it was brought up, it's a business, it's gambling. Emilio Otano, if you see him out, he usually wears one of those back braces. He says he's 60, I thought he was mid-50s. He lays tile for a living. You know, that's hard work. He's up and down, you know. I don't know if you realize that a case of tile, 24 by 24, is 4 tiles, and that's 70 pounds. That's heavy. Vivian Otano, his wife, also works full-time. Now, if they were making all this money on these pigeons, do you think they would both be working full-time and he'd be doing tile work? I don't think so. But in it, gambling, you can call it what you want. I'm going to call it a hobby. Now we're going to address bird droppings and pests. For the past 2 decades, as it was mentioned before, we've never had any bird droppings or anything like that. We haven't had any pests around that we've noticed. I mean, the loft doesn't smell. We walk right behind it. I also like to hang out my sheets and blankets and quilts, and I do that on drying racks in the driveway and also on a chain link fence. I don't recall ever getting any bird droppings on them, and if you did, how would you know it wasn't a natural bird versus the racing pigeons? Who's going to monitor? This was all discussed in the guidelines given by staff, 30.20.32. Noise. It was pointed out at the Planning Commission meeting. We don't know if the birds are in there. That's right. You don't know they're in there. I mean, they're just very quiet. The Otanos are very quiet people. There were no parties, no lot of traffic, just very quiet, hardworking people. It was also brought up, what were the benefits to St. Cloud? Support a small business. Kissimmee Valley Feed would not stock exotic bird food or host an annual pigeon party if it was not beneficial to their business. And the pigeon training sessions.
Can you wrap it up real quick, please?
This is the most, I have 6 minutes, I thought.
No, you don't, ma'am.
No, you don't. You got 3 minutes.
All right, that's the most magnificent part. It was brought out. I mean, watching the pigeons fly, all you hear is the wind in their wings. And then just a little bit of a history. Our U.S. Constitution says, we the people set the standards for making sure the blessings of liberty continue for ourselves and our descendants, and the Declaration of Independence that all men will be endowed with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Please let Emilio pursue his happiness.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you.
If we could refrain from clapping, please. Either way. Raul Salas, you got something new to add?
I don't know after that.
All right.
Raul Salas, 256 Vervain Avenue, Davenport, Florida. I have known Emilio for 20 years. He was my employer for a lot of those years, and I can honestly say that is the most honest, most righteous man I have ever met. Just to be quick about this, when I deployed to Afghanistan in 2012. I came back. I don't know. It's a little bit hard sometimes adjusting to normal life when you come back, you know, when you jump the pond, as we say. And I can honestly say one of the most therapeutical things that I saw when was those animals were in flight, in this perfect unison. It was better than any therapy that you can never imagine. And I know most of you have something special, right? They either have a hobby, whatever. If somebody, I'm a musician, if somebody told me I can't have amplifiers or guitars because I'm gonna make a lot of noise and have concerts in my backyard, I'd be like, no. So all I can say is put yourself in his shoes. Don't take this away from him, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Bob Fitton.
Evening. Bob Fitton, 4565 Canoe Creek Road. I've known Emilio since he's moved in. We've been in our place about 30 years. And as far as the birds go, he's passionate about it. He takes care of the birds. And I'm one of these kind of get off my lawn guys. And I haven't had any problems with his birds or anything like that. You know, I build street rods, so I don't want birds flying around crapping all over them and that kind of thing. I haven't had any of those kind of instances at all. So it's a good move to let him do it. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Venus Santiago.
Yes. Venus Santiago, address is 338 Missouri Avenue. I am actually the very next door neighbor to Emilio. I came from New York. I was a New York City police officer for 28 years. I retired and came to Florida like everyone else. I had no idea that you can even, you know, have a certain amount of pigeons and not have a mess. I'm from New York. There's a mess. When I started talking to Emilio and he started talking to me about his birds, I was like, you mean like pigeons, like New York pigeons that they eat just about everything? He was like, oh, no, no, no. I'm gonna have these kind of pigeons. I said, okay. The guy spoke with so much passion. And I don't know, maybe it's from years of experience, but I had a gut feeling about this guy. And I was like, you know what? He's on point. He knows what he's talking about, and I'm not gonna have any issues. And I would really appreciate if you guys gave him a thumbs up for his pigeons.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last of all, Patricia Herman. Please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Tricia Herman. I live at 4325 Sullivan Drive. I had the pleasure of living next to Emilio, Vivian, and the pigeons for 20 years. And first thing, I, like Ross, didn't even know they existed for years. Every once in a while, I would see birds flying in groups, and I'd think, oh, that's cool. I didn't even know they were literally in our side yard. No smell. No sounds, except when they're flying, and it is so cool to see them fly. They fly in such unison, and all you hear is just this unusual wind sound, and you look up. And if your kids are in the yard making noise, you wouldn't even hear it. I have to say his birds have behaved way better than my kids and my dogs and my cats that he has put up with. They've gone in his yard, they've caused problems, but his birds have never been in my yard, never causing any problems. Just a joy to have them as a neighbor. I know there was something about maybe that there would be crowds at his house. I have never seen Emilio have more than one extra car at his house ever. He is the quietest neighbor ever. I can't say the same about our house. We've had many, many cars at our house. Bill Kaufman, my next door neighbor, wrote a letter and I think spoke to all of you. He unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but I'd like to remind you of his support. I'd like to say to everybody here, let's be honest. Having a good neighbor is super, super hard these days. You hear all of this on the news about, you know, neighbors fighting against neighbors. And I'm going to tell you, if you can have Emilio, Vivian, and those pigeons as your neighbor, you're very blessed. And I was very blessed to have them for 20 years, and we already miss them very much.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else want to speak to this item?
I never filled out a
Well, you got to come to the mic, sir. But you just need to fill out a paper before you leave.
Okay, thank you. I live at 325 Connecticut Avenue.
Could you state your name, please?
Willard Congrove. I can't understand. These are not exotic birds. They're pigeons. He wants to raise them at a residential area. I mean, they're dirty. Sure, all these people here, they live out on Canoe Creek Road. It's not in a residential area. So the pigeons, if you go out there and take a look at the area where they give him permission to build his building, they give him a quota for how many pigeons he can have. I like to raise chickens. They give me a quota of 4, but I cannot breed them. So it's a residential area. Why would you come from the country and put your racing business on a residential area? That's what I like, It just doesn't make sense. Pigeons are pigeons. Dogs are dogs. You all crap? Oh, yeah, they fly around. Like you said, they fly, they take them 200 or 300 miles away. Oh, yeah, they're going to come right back to the coop? Well, no. They're going to land on the houses and everything else. Is my time up? So take it into consideration. You look, where do you all live? You all live in a nice, fancy area, and you want pigeons flying around, dropping stuff on you? Is he going to clean it up every day? What's he going to do with his cleanings and stuff? So, like you say, I appreciate the people that they respect the man to come in and talk for him. But they all live out in Canoe Creek, out in the country. You're in a area where what is it, 80 by 100 lots? So you can't tell me that the pigeons are going to come flying. Well, I know, because I raised them too. I had just a regular, like he said, regular pigeons. Homey pigeons are the same thing. They just raise them different. I grabbed pigeons out of the barns and stuff and I trained them to be homey pigeons, but I sure didn't live in a residential area. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Please fill out that record there before you leave, please. If not, we'll have discussion and/or motion by council. Dr. Gilbert.
Yeah, this has been a great experience for me. I've studied high and low, red. Your information that you gave me, I shared with all council and made copies of each one. Doesn't really matter where we live. Doesn't matter what area we live in. It's what we do to respect our neighbors. My feeling is there's a lot of respect for the neighbors here. Also, my research is a pit bull is not the same as a chihuahua. It just isn't. These are trained animals, and I did research. They sell for some of $1 million. And our police officer from New York, thank you for serving. New York has one of the biggest racing pigeons society in America, and I never knew that also. And they're not the pigeons you see in New York Times Square, which I've seen them. I thought they were good look when they pooped on my arm, but some people don't. But I look at this as a respectable person with a respectable thing, and binary things are important, but my belief is this gentleman, and I have 3 dogs, and they're mutts, they're rescue dogs, and we love them to death, they bark too much, but you're actually doing above and beyond what's expected from you in your profession. And it's a hobby, and it's a love for life. So I respect you for that. I seriously spent over 4 hours on the internet and your information and researching this. These are not feral pigeons. These are actually racing pigeons, which makes them different. I have a ranch, and we have some horses, but then you have racing horses that you treat a little different. So I appreciate all the support. Russ is a good guy. You guys are good guys. I would approve this under the conditions that St. Cloud has put forth, because there are conditions, and we can revisit that. I truly believe that you will look at that in that manner and respect that. I don't know you, sir, but I have a feeling that you're going to respect that. So with that in mind, I'm happy for you and happy for your support in that, because we're all in this together. It doesn't have to be written, it just has to be said. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Fletcher.
It certainly has been an interesting agenda. I'm not sure I have as many friends as you that would sit through 3.5 hours of a city council meeting to say how awesome I was. But I feel that the conditions that staff have put on this conditional use, you get 3 complaints, it comes back to us. I think it's more of maybe the neighbors seeing what actually happens, and maybe a little bit of communication with that, and I think it'll be fine. And the daughter flying out here, I did get your email last night at 11 o'clock, and it's nice to see that you came to support your father, because I know that this isn't, it's a little nerve-wracking, I'm sure, to go through this whole process. So.
I'm pretty sure the birds are in the will, but I'm not.
Okay. Councilmember Matheny, please.
Thank you. I was going to make the same comment. I do not have this many friends who would come and sit all this time for me. But I wanted to say that I actually know Emilio. I met him a few years ago when he came and did tile work at my house. And he is the sweetest, most patient man, because I am a bear to work for, I know. But I have no doubt that he is a conscientious bird owner. I would love to come see them one day. I would love to come see it. Just 2 points of fact, we have a cat that we're taking care of outside, because we have 3 cats inside. It drug a dead squirrel in our garage today. So that's, just dealing with that. And, and we allow backyard chickens, which those are way more noisy, dirty, smelly than this. I'm fully in support of it. Just for the record, I think the lady left, but this is not the first pigeon permit in St. Cloud. It's the second.
Right?
So I fully support this. It's a conditional use. If there is an issue, which I don't see happening, it'll come back to us. So.
Councilmember Urban.
Yeah, just echoing everything that's been said up here. I also did my research on pigeons, and it's very impressive. Councilmember Gilbert talked about being a good neighbor. Emilio sounds like the kind of person I'd be thrilled to be neighbors with. So I definitely would be in support of this as well.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of it. I have known 2 people personally who had racing pigeons, and you would never know they were there. Neighbors never complained. They never created any kind of mess for any of the neighbors to have to deal with. They're handled very professionally. They're taken care of. And I just remind you, I'm going to make a motion that we approve this conditional use, and the pigeon inspector will be by to make sure you are living by all the conditions that we are approving. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Matheny, a motion from the mayor. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Sir, y'all move on out, okay? We still have a council meeting. Thanks, sir. Okay. Please do your talking outside, please. Madam Clerk, will you please read item number 14?
Resolution number 2023-192R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud declaring 4.64 plus minus acres of certain real property located near the intersection of U.S. Highway 192 and Old Melbourne Highway in unincorporated Osceola County as surplus and proving the sale of said property to Equity Monterey LLC for $87,000 and buyer's grant of a utility easement for the benefit of the city, Orlando Utility Commission, and Toho Water Authority, authorizing the mayor and city manager to perform all acts necessary and appropriate to close on the property as provided herewith and providing an effective date.
Abismal Abreu, Strategic Initiative Administrator for the City of St. Cloud, and I promise to fly through this presentation like a racing pigeon.
Thank you.
You've been waiting all night for that.
Nice.
I was practicing. So pretty much the body of this resolution provided a brief summary of what this resolution is. So it's basically a contract for sale and purchase for approximately 4.64 acres of city-owned property. It's fair to note that it's very important to note that it's located in the eastern boundary of the AmeriCenter complex at the intersection of US 192 and Old Melbourne Highway. And I would like council to also note this, that it's outside of city limits and outside of the JPA. Brief history, let me go back to this picture. So it's basically what's being, the subject area is shaded in blue. I don't know if you can see it very well there, but that's what we're discussing tonight. Brief history, this property, it's being used as an electrical substation. It was acquired by the city in 1987. It's currently being managed by OUC. As you may know, OUC is part of is who manage our electrical utilities here. The property to the east of this subject area is being developed. So the developer reached out to the city. They were looking for a easement for them to be able to run their utilities and their roads through our city property. So we worked with them as well with OUC, and it was best determined for that buyer to purchase our property and then provide the city and our utility services with an easement. It's a lot cleaner that way. For that reason, and because of City Code Section 2-188, it's considered surplus property, and it can be sold at a fair market value. And the property was appraised, and that appraisal was provided to the city, and it was corroborated by our staff as well, with a fair market value of $87,000. Let me just go a little bit into the terms of the contract. We have the size of the property as 4.6 acres, sales price of $87,000 with a $5,000 deposit, no additional earnest money, an inspection period of 30 days, closing costs paid by the buyer, except for the attorney's fees for Mr. Manceres. The special condition in this contract is that at closing, the buyer will be providing a public utility easement to the City of St. Cloud, OUC, and Toho Water Authority. So because of that reason, we're okay with the sale. Staff recommends approval of this resolution, and we are requesting that the City Council approve as well. And that's it, pretty fast.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion or motion by council.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Brings us to council action, item number 1. Madam Clerk? Go ahead.
Resolution number 2023-164R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, determining the lowest responsible bidder whose bid is responsible and otherwise in the best interest of the City of St. Cloud, and the award thereof in regards to the invitation of bid ITB number 2023-142 to Vinsat Inc., doing business as Vinsat Solutions, which subject matter is custodial services, and providing an effective date.
Good evening, Kevin Pubblinger, Public Works Director. This is basically I'm bringing forward the award for the contract for custodial services. This overall is a savings of anywhere between $125,000 and $173,000 per year. Vinsat has experience with Polk County and the City of Orlando. They have offered to hire all of our custodial employees at the same rate of pay. But as we discussed last time, we were asked to be able to try to do a hybrid. And so we went out and we actually were able to offer positions to all 8 employees if they would like to stay with the City of St. Cloud. I said, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to discuss it.
First of all, we'll have some public comment. Billen Garcia.
My name is Villen Garcia. I live at 724 Castillo Place, St. Cloud. And my name is Suhey Vargas. I'm living in 3935 Windancer Circle, St. Cloud.
Okay, good. My name is Claudia Mejia, and I live in 3843 Crepe Circle, St. Cloud, Florida, 34769. And I had to read because I had to try to translate her, Suhey, and BJ, because they have 3 questions for all the council members. So I want to try my best to learn and you understand. Okay, the first question is, was the company asked if they could do a hybrid to the contract to keep off on a city employee like council member? Matelin request because no has one told us either way if they will. This is one question. The second question, my second question, me and my other employee has been offering to work a special events a custodian for the park and recreation department, but don't know how, what day or hour that will be working. Third question, if we are beginning move to another position with the city, why do we have to be placed on a probation period? I would like to end my say that we appreciate the support by the council to find way to keep off of the city employee, but if any way possible, can you please keep off a custodian for the city of St. Cloud? Because I feel that some of my fellow employee is moving to another department and put on the probation period, will end up losing their employee, and I hope I am wrong. Thank you for your time.
Do we have someone to speak to those questions?
Like I said, Kevin Feldmeier. Like I said, all 8 employees were offered different types of employment with the city. There were 2 areas that we are trying to be able to have custodians for that are in the Parks and Rec area. They'll be helping with special events. And it would be a new position that would be there. So we are, I said, to be able to give exact timeframes that they're going to be helping with setup and tear down and clean up after special events. We're committed to be able to try to give them as much notice as possible, but it will not be a set schedule every time, because like I said, because the positions that they were offered are going to be funded through parks positions and parks events. And so like I said, so there will be times where they will have to work flexible hours. Other positions that were offered to other employees so we had some offers of maintenance workers. We had an administrative assistant. We had a clerk position and a code enforcement officer, were the positions we offered to different areas there. And like I said, the ones that are no longer custodians are new positions. And like I said, as with every employee, whenever they take a new position, they would be on probation for those areas. Our intent is to make sure that all the employees are successful in their new endeavors. We've offered to be able to provide training and computer skills, and also people that do not feel very comfortable with their English skills. We've offered to be able to pay for them to go and help with their English skills also. So like I said, we are doing everything we can to make sure that everybody is as successful as possible.
If I could also clarify, the 2 custodians, that's the same position, so they would not be on probation for those 2 positions.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak to this item? Please step up, state your name and address.
Good evening, Council and the Mayor. My name is Enrique Lebron. I live at 4215 Needle Pond Court, St. Cloud, Florida. I have been a custodian for over 10 years with the city of St. Cloud. I retired, then I came back. And I finished my probation period of 6 months. I love what I do and want to stay as a custodian. When I first applied to the city, my first job was with the street department, and I had bad experience over there. At that time, I did not know I was required to have a CDL license. So I studied and I took the test 3 times and I failed. And the supervisor was there at that time. He retired. He told me that if I didn't have, if I don't pass in, the order, he told me that if I had to pass in order to keep my job there at the city of St. Cloud, I thank him for the position that, it came over. So I applied and I was hired then, and I transferred from the street department. In other words, I was hired, there was an opening in the custodial department, so I was hired because I knew that I was pressure with the supervisor. He wanted me to get the CDL and I couldn't get it because, really the test is not easy. And they only give you 3 chances. If you don't miss, that's it, you're done. You don't need you. And he's a guy with CDL. Okay, so now the city wants me to replace me without a source of my job. I placed me into another position in which what was being offered to me is the street department position that I failed at 10 years ago. So I talked to Kevin that I did not want that position because if I go again, then they will have a reason to let me go. Also, I do not have any college degree, and I don't see any position that they're open at that time that I could qualify for. I am concerned that I'm being pushed into applying for a job that I know that I don't qualify, and I will later be fired. I lost that acceptability that I have working for the city. Again, I thank you for your time, and I pray to God that you consider generally in either allowing us to keep our current job or are willing to place us in a job that we truly qualify and honor our service to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique. Debbie Ortiz.
My name is Debbie Ortiz, and I live at 3041 Robway, Kissimmee, Florida. Sir, ma'am, and board members, my name is Debbie Ortiz. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns. I am here for the same reason as my coworkers. I want to keep my job. As you already know, a good job source is hard to come by, but the job has to provide a good work environment, stable work hours, and a retirement plan. I am 58 years old, single woman and a grandmother who recently got custody of my 2-year-old grandson. As a single leader of household woman, I provide for myself and my grandson. but I also have bills to pay like everyone else. Property taxes, home insurance, car insurance, etc. I am grateful to have found a job that allows me to continue to be a responsible, hardworking citizen. I take pride in doing my job the best of my ability, or better than expected. I am fully bilingual, Spanish and English. I have applied for jobs, but unfortunately, I do not qualify due to not meeting the education and requirements on the years of experience. I am considered that I am being pushed into applying for a job that I know I don't qualify for. I will later be fired and lose my stability. I have worked with the city. Some of the jobs require me training, and I am trainable, but at 58 years old, it does not seem possible, especially with having custody of a grandchild. Again, thank you for your time, for your time and consideration. I pray to God that you allow us to continue with our jobs or place us in better jobs. Thank you for hearing me, okay?
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay.
Has anyone else want to speak that hasn't spoken? If not, we'll have further discussion and/or motions by council. Mr. Gilbert. Councilman Gilbert.
The last meeting we had, I was emphasizing on taking care of our employees. I truly believe that city staff has done so. Hours of employment differ in different jobs. I've worked midnight shift, I've worked afternoon shift, whatever. So I get that, you know. I also understand being 58 to do a new job or learn a new job, your security kind of waffles. But I love the fact that you're offering English classes, computer classes, training in different departments. And believe it or not, I always thought the department I worked in was the best. Not because of me, because of everyone else. But if these folks go to those new departments, they may blossom into something new. I like the fact that the city's giving them the option, here, we've got something for you. We're not kicking you to the curb. And I know probation is a weird word. You know, you're on probation. Anytime I've ever promoted somebody to a different permission or moved them to a different permission, there was a probational period of 30, 60, 90 days, and that's in most businesses and corporations. I understand their plight. Great people. I'd never want to lose people, but I do think the city has done a good job with placement, and I think they will excel. These are great employees that we don't want to lose, but I think what we asked as council last time is find them a job where they'll excel. But I also understand when you get old, I'm 60, you don't want to do anything different. You know, you go to the same grocery store, you don't go to the next one. So I get that, but I truly believe the city has matched what they should do for these positions. So love you guys, think you're going to be great for the city. Sometimes when you talk about praying to God you'll excel in the next position that the city gives you. And no one, the gentleman said to me earlier, he said, listen, I was in streets and I couldn't get my CDL, so they put me in another position. That is great. They didn't kick you to the curb, you didn't get fired. I don't think any person here is going to get fired. I think every person here we want to keep and keep forever, and keep their pension and keep everything going. So I think the city matched what the council asked. That's all I can say on that. And you are valuable, valuable human beings, not just to the city of St. Cloud, but to our society. And that's the only thing I have to say. I truly believe the city matched what they did. And I think these new positions that you put in are going to help you excel. And there are promotions. I think in some levels there are promotions and raises and occurrences. So I think we didn't fall short of our promise to them. That's just my opinion, and I go back to you, Mayor.
Do we have any other discussion from council? My concern is I just want us to make sure that we do everything in our power to take care of these employees, if they're making this transition, and that we do everything that we can in our power to help them succeed, and that they're able to continue to make the same amount of money, if not more, that they're making now. And so whatever creativity you got to do, go the extra mile to make it happen. And we just ask you guys to work with us, work with the city, and let them know if it's not working out. And I think they'll work hard to try and find you something else if you're staying with the city. But let's give it a shot. Because this is a tough decision. I would love to make everybody happy, but we do want to take care of you. And I think that's our directive. Do everything you can to make sure that that happens. Any other discussion? What's the pleasure of the council regarding resolution number 2023-164R?
A motion to accept.
We have a motion from Councilmember Gilbert. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Could you read item number 2?
Discussion and possible action regarding appointments to boards and committees with vacancies in the General Employee Pension Board and the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Madam Clerk, would you please?
For the General Employee Pension Board, we have one seat vacant, which is seat 6, and you have 4 applicants that you should have received in your backup.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Lily Vet Serrano to seat number 6.
Second.
Any other nominations?
She's here.
You willing to do this, huh? All right. We didn't think your name would be on it if you weren't. Do we need to have a vote? Can I have votes for it? Or need to have a roll call vote?
You should have a roll call vote, yes.
All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item.
We have then, for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, we have a vacancy in seat 2 and vacancy in seat 5, and you have 5 applicants.
Councilmember Atheny.
Before we got started, I wanted to ask council, I thought our direction previously was when there's alternates and there's vacancies to move the alternates up. I thought that's what we had said previously, so to automatically move them up.
We can go ahead and move that up, so then you would have basically an alternate 1 and an alternate 2 at this point.
So since seat 2 is me, I would make alternate 1 Robert Newton.
Second.
Okay, so you're making a motion that we move alternate 1 up to,
Well, I thought we had just a general course of business had said, anytime we have a vacancy, move up
did.
the alternates. We had said that, so just
didn't know
moving
what that was.
forward when it comes, just move them up.
so we're all in agreement then.
Yeah.
So your first alternate number 1 is who now?
Robert Newton?
Do we have and I had a second
Yes, sir.
from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Alternate number 2.
I'd like to nominate Courtney Gano.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam, do we have any other nominations? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And Mayor, can we just clarify one position? Ivy, do you know who the current alternates are before this?
Yeah, it's on the.
Yeah, Matthew Boggs, number 1.
Matthew Boggs and George Mathis.
George Mathis,
All right,
alternate
so we'll
number
need
2.
to move, so you want to just confirm, I don't have that sheet. Thank you.
It would be alternate 1, Matthew Boggs would move to seat 2, and alternate 2, George Mathis, to move to seat 5.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to clarify.
Mayor, before we move on, I received an email about the pension board regarding someone that requested to be reappointed early. Is that still the case? Or is that possible?
Are you talking about
do?
Ms. Zilke?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I was going to bring up the same item. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just wanted to note that I received an email about that. If we wanted to take action on that.
Yes. Ms. Zilke is the chairman of the, I left my notes.
Can
Her
you flip back to the last slide?
Her application, I think, is on everyone's seat.
What board are you on, Ms. Zilke? Would you? I'm sorry, I'm.
General Employees
I've
Pension
got it here
Board.
somewhere. General employee, okay, pension board.
My name's Nadine Zilke, and I'm the chairman for the General Pension Board. My seat is coming up in November for the term, and you have just one council meeting in November, so my request was, since it was already an agenda item, to move my reappointment up to this meeting for a discussion. You have the other applicants on file, and including mine. So that's what I was asking for. Should the agenda item get pushed like this vacant seat had been pushed before, the seat would then become vacant versus being a reappointment.
Point of clarification, it would not become vacant. She would have stayed in the seat until we reappointed or you appointed
resigned.
someone new.
Right.
Or she resigned.
But we can't make a motion that when it comes up, can we do that now? That she
Yeah,
still stay in
it's
the
items
seat?
before you, the General Employee Pension Board. It's been on the agenda, so yes, you can take that action.
So do I have to make a motion that be added to the agenda first?
No, because it's been on the agenda already, so
All right.
I'm okay with that. But I would point out there are other applicants for this seat, for a vacant seat on this board, so.
I understand, but I think she would be a valuable person to keep on that board. So I'll make a motion, we extend her seat
Essentially, it's a reappointment to the seat that
for
would become
reappointment to the
vacant in
seat when
November.
it expires.
Second.
Who made the second?
I did.
You did, I did. Okay. Mayor made the motion, Mr. Gilbert made the second. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I lost your notes here. I had it with me somewhere.
I might have
Here in
inserted
all
it in
this
your
mess.
area. I'm sorry about that, Mayor.
Did you grab some of my notes? Wow. Mr. Manzares.
I do not have anything, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Ms. Miller.
Yes, I have two short items. First was at the last meeting, we had a discussion on different versions of the agenda. There was a request, in addition to the full version, if we could create a short version for the city council. So before the meeting, I emailed you a different link that included a different version of the agenda, so you would be able to use that version or the full agenda with all the backup. And I just would like to know if that was satisfactory to the city council.
I like the long version personally. I mean, is it causing you extra work to make two versions?
No, we already make that second version for the website because of ADA compliance.
I'm fine with it.
I like it. I like that. I could go to one, and when I needed to dig deeper, I went into the larger.
Okay, great. Well, then we'll mark that as
You
completed.
got consensus on that?
Thank you. And then the last item, the mayor sits on our Metro Plan Advisory Committee, and they have asked for an alternate for the mayor's on the advisory committee. Additionally, I reported, I think at the last city council meeting, that St. Cloud is graduating in February to the big board. So whoever we select as an alternate would also follow to the big board. And so
As an alternate.
As an alternate. So I'm asking the city council to appoint someone.
Is there anyone here that is brave enough to volunteer?
I am.
I would be,
yeah,
either one, I was
I
gonna say,
am.
yeah.
I'm retired. Alternate. I'm on the last end of the bench, Mayor. They call me in when the game's over.
Well, I'm confused between you two. What's the deal here? Are you saying you're willing to serve?
Yes, I am,
Or
sir.
are you saying you would will to serve?
I would be, but if Councilmember Gilbert, he definitely has more time on his hands, so I would be happy to appoint him as well.
And I should clarify, the meetings are in Orlando,
Mm-hmm.
and they're lengthy meetings, so
Yes.
it is a time commitment.
It's
And I
a
think
half,
it's
it's a
very,
half-a-day meeting.
it's a very important to our growth of this city also. I believe talking to the mayor on that specific board, it's very important to us.
Well, then, could I have a motion that we appoint Mr. Gilbert to the MAC board as, the MAC committee as an alternate?
Motion to appoint Councilmember Gilbert to the alternate position.
Do I have a second? Second from Councilmember Matheny, motion from Councilmember Urban. Another roll call vote?
Yes, sir.
Roll call, let's go.
Roll call.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Mayor, you should know, every vote requires a roll call. Seven
should,
plus
you
years of
should.
doing this, you know.
One day you might change your mind. You got a beard now.
It's in the code. You guys gotta change the code.
He's getting ready for Christmas.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. Good job, everybody, getting through the 5,000-page agenda. I mean, it's not too bad, 10 o'clock. But I did want to make one request, and City Manager, I don't know how difficult it is, but when we have something like Mr. Emilio with his bird, can we move him up in the agenda? You know, I feel bad when they have to sit here hours and hours and hours. I mean, could he have been number 1 versus number 14? I don't know what the process is when you guys set the agenda up, but is there any way to have some consideration for individual, single family, you know, like regular folks coming to,
Well,
I'm not
always
saying
have-
move him into different sections, but did he need to be at the bottom of that
Well,
section?
because of the nature of the item in the established agenda priority, it's a lower item because it was a resolution and not an ordinance, and you go through the ordinances first before you do that. That's why it was put there. We could have moved it at any time you wanted to. Just would have had to ask.
Well, is there a way to just have some consideration to that and not?
Well, there is, but.
I mean, I
of
don't know
course-
how the other council
well,
feels,
one
but
of
I
the-
always feel bad when
I
we
mean,
end up with somebody
it's tough
sitting
from
here
this-
like
no, but,
hours.
you know, one of the struggles you do, there were obviously tonight, there were people here for a lot of different items, so or at least for another item, so it's tough to decide who you're gonna move around and who you're not.
Are you saying, City Attorney, that, you know, being A is better than being Z? Because when you do roll call, you're like first? And you know, Zimbabwe's last? It happens, right? I've always fit in the middle.
I've known people that have said, put me down as far as you can on the agenda, because by the time they get to me, they'll be tired and they'll just go like that.
It's true. We can easily move land development code text amendments, comprehensive plan text amendments
Good.
last on the agenda. Maybe I can work with the mayor when I know there's going to be several people and we can discuss
I mean, I can always
beforehand.
Bring up an item earlier.
Yes.
For consideration if we feel like that's wise, but.
Yeah, you can always
To
ask.
me, it's a double-edged sword, because you got other people
Yeah.
here that their time's just as valuable as, 30 people sitting there.
Yes.
And so
Well,
it's kind of. a
that's my
catch-22.
thoughts. If you guys don't want to do it, that's
And as
fine.
everybody commented, typically you don't have that many people show up.
Correct. It happens to us frequently. Like John New Street ends up sitting here until 11 o'clock at night for a 5-minute thing when we could
Right.
have like.
So what the mayor said that we could move them up if we look at the agenda and say, let's get these done first. Was that what we're talking about? We
I was
can-
just asking staff to do it.
okay. And if they don't, we see it, would it be, can we do it, I guess?
We have to ask the mayor.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
the
Well,
then-
you
mayor-
can.
the mayor
Okay.
can-
You can, and in the past,
Move
when
it up.
we've noticed there's been a large crowd that might be here for something,
Okay.
they've taken them out of order based on whatever
Okay.
the council wants to do.
That's it for me.
I agree with you, though.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Councilmember Fletcher.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Gilbert.
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Jesus. Councilmember Irvin.
I just wanted to thank you all. There's some 3-2 votes and 4-1 votes, but at the end of the day, I have the utmost respect for everyone here, so I really enjoy serving with you all.
Thank you, sir.
Kind of sound like you're winding up or something. I do not have anything to add either. Our information section, report section, Thursday, September 20th, there was a city council meeting at 6:30, as usual, right here, same place, same time in council chambers. Warrant list number 16 is available for your review. And with that, there is no other additional item. We will be adjourned.